young diplomats of Ghana. I'd like to welcome you all to today's event, which is the 2018 International Youth Day, which we've dubbed Ghana Youth Meeting. To welcome us, we would call on Mr. John Richardson, who is the Project Officer for Transport at the World Bank. Let's put our hands together as he comes to give us the welcome address.
Thank you very much, Moritz, and good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Country Director of the World Bank, I'd like to welcome you all to our offices for this Ghana Youth Meeting on the occasion of the International Youth Day, which indeed we have the honor of hosting in our offices. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to observe that you have made a lot of progress in engaging the youth of the country since the Youth Day debate last year. And I'm sure that this gathering and this initiative will spiral into bigger initiatives that will establish the role of the youth in our development. The theme for the meeting, as I've seen, is Open and Responsive Government, the Pathway to Sustainable Development. And this is indeed something that is of interest to the World Bank as a development finance institution. But this is made even more interesting in the light of the current issues that are being highlighted in the local media. And so I think that it comes at a good time when we need to understand the role of government in sustainable development agenda, particularly our youth. I'd like to note that sustainable development refers to development not only for the sake of development, but development that goes beyond the present generation. And one definition of sustainable development is the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. And so I consider that this theme is of great relevance to the youth, because in understanding it, they can help in shaping the agenda that they would soon inherit and prepare to pass on a credible legacy to the next generation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, sustainable development is a worldwide agenda. In 2015, a collection of 17 global goals called the Sustainable Development Goals were set by the United Nations. The goals are broad and interdependent, and they cover social, economic development issues, including poverty, hunger, health, education, global warming, gender equality, water, sanitation, energy, urbanization, environment, and social justice. The target, as you may all be aware, is to achieve these goals by 2030. And indeed, national governments have the primary responsibility for their implementation, and they must take the lead by establishing the national plans. As a country, you may also be aware that Ghana has a history of engagement in the front line of the development of the SDGs, and Ghana was one of the 50 countries in the post-2015 agenda consultations, which were held from 2016 to 2017. The official launch of the SDGs in Ghana in February 2016 was by the then President John Dramani Mahama, and later on he acted as a co-chair of a group of 16 eminent advocates for the SDGs appointed by the then Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Again in 2017, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres appointed the President, the current President Nana Akufo-Addo, to co-chair the group of SDG advocates. Now, these appointments highlight the significant role that Ghana plays as a leader, especially in Africa, for the attainment of SDGs on the continent. And indeed, these antecedents make the engagement of youth of Ghana in the debate and implementation of the SDGs imperative. Over today and tomorrow, you will have the opportunity to take this agenda further through the various sessions that are planned for this meeting. And I trust that you will avail yourself of this opportunity and interrogate the issues of open and responsive government critically, so as to give more clarity to the pathways of development. On that note, I'd like to wish you all successful deliberations during these meetings. I hope that your discussions will engender concrete and positive action towards a better future for this country and indeed the world at large. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, I thank you and I welcome you to this meeting.
I think we can do better for him. That's Mr. John Richardson, Project Officer for Transport at the World Bank. Per our program, I'm also supposed to give a few words, and so quickly I'll just read a little speech I have. Distinguished speakers and invited guests, Cohort 1 and Cohort 2 of the Young Diplomats of Ghana, fellow youth and meeting participants, friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen. A hearty and warm greetings to you all, and welcome to the inaugural Ghana Youth Meeting to mark the 2018 International Youth Day in Ghana. Many thanks for your time and honoring our invitations to join us. Let me seize this opportunity to extend our appreciation to the World Bank for also inviting us into their space and making this important gathering possible. We began the Young Diplomats of Ghana journey in 2016 as a unique capacity building alternative to raise and build the new generation of leaders in diplomacy and policy advocacy, and also work as ambassadors for the Sustainable Development Goals in Ghana. Over the past 2 years, we have engaged our delegates and members in a series of training and capacity building initiatives to get them involved in the development agenda of our dear nation, Ghana, and also to prepare them for leadership roles and also for their various career and personal aspirations. We also came up with a Young Diplomats of Ghana forum organized every quarter, where we open up for non-delegates to join us for our training and experience our unique, what we offer, with regards to Young Diplomats of Ghana. Of course, as our soon-to-be parliamentarians, what I mean is these young people you find here are soon-to-be parliamentarians, diplomats, staff and key members of the international and developmental organizations, leaders of corporate and civil society organizations, among others. There's a need for opportunities to groom and nurture young people to withstand future challenges in their career prospects in very crucial, and that is what the Young Diplomats of Ghana initiative stands for. But more importantly, as we join the biggest celebration of young people worldwide to mark the International Youth Day, we hope that this meeting, which runs on the theme Open and Responsive Government Pathway to Sustainable Development, will leverage on the expertise and knowledge of our participants, speakers, and special guests in a very interactive approach to dialogue, deliberate and build on existing proposals and recommendations on modalities on how young people can play significant roles with regards to government and decision making. Once again, let me extend our sincere appreciation to all for joining us. Our appreciation also goes to Guinness Ghana Brewery Limited, Soft Landing, Air Brussels, Diplomatic Times, and City FM. And to all who supported in diverse ways, we appreciate your efforts. And I say Happy International Youth Day to us all. Thank you very much. On our program, we have the Minister for Planning, Professor Jan Bafo, who is not here but is represented. So let's put our hands together as we welcome Mrs. Magdalene Appington to give us a few words.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This afternoon, I'm representing the Honorable Minister responsible for planning. He's been called into a meeting that was unexpected. All protocols observed. So every time I read and I say I, please note it's not me. I'm just reading what he's asked me to read. Young people today, the world over, are confronted with opportunities and challenges in creating a bright future for themselves. The SDGs have established the fact that young people are a driving force for development. But this can only happen if they are provided with the skills and opportunities needed to reach their potential, including the necessary support. Central to this is the creation of a partnership that helps policymakers and young people, including youth-serving organizations, collectively advance their development agenda and contribute to the achievement of the SDGs. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me at this point to provide a little background to how Ghana is implementing the SDGs in country. In Ghana, the SDGs have been integrated into our national development planning process, beginning with the Coordinated Program of Economic and Social Development Policies, which represents the vision of the President. This is then enshrined in the various sector medium-term development plans through a decentralized approach with the ministries, departments, and agencies, and metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies being the main government implementing agencies, ensuring the attainment of the SDGs. With respect to the coordination, you may be aware, following His Excellency the President's appointment by the UN Secretary General as co-chair of the eminent advocates on SDGs, the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, set up a high-level ministerial committee charged with the responsibility of ensuring effective coordination of the SDGs among state agencies in partnership with relevant non-state actors, and I chair this committee. Two other committees, one, Implementation Coordination Committee, the ICC, and the Technical Committee, the TC, have also been established to provide technical inputs and optimize synergies in the implementation of the SDGs. We have also gone further to ensure that the requirements of the AU Agenda 2063 have also been aligned with the national plans and the framework, and that these are synchronized with the SDGs. Ladies and gentlemen, this strategy has enabled mutual accountability and intersectoral coherence in the delivery of not only the SDGs, but also the Agenda 2063 outcomes, thereby ensuring we can achieve the desired impact. The SDGs Baseline Report 2018 has just been completed by the ICC and would soon be launched. The report provides a reference point for tracking progress towards achieving the SDG targets on 65 indicators, and will be a useful gauge for all of us on what we have set forth to do and how far on course we are. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, government under the leadership of President Akufo-Addo has young people at the center of its development agenda. The government is acutely aware of the need to harness the potential of the close to 35% of its population who form the youth. A population who are better educated, exposed to more opportunities, and with more skills than their predecessors. To ensure their comprehensive development, the medium-term objective of government is to create the opportunity for them to participate effectively and positively in national socio-economic development and political governance. This entails mainstreaming youth issues in national development policies, programs, and projects across all sectors. Specifically, equipping the youth with employable skills, strengthening the link between education and the labor market, building the capacity of the youth to discover opportunities, building integrated youth centers in all districts to serve as information hubs for youth development, and strengthening key national institutions, including National Youth Authority and the Youth Enterprise Authority, to discharge their mandates effectively. The Nation Builders Corps, NABCO, program recently launched by His Excellency the President aims to address graduate unemployment to solve social problems. Targeting service delivery in health, education, agriculture, technology, and governance, it provides temporary employment whilst at the same time improving skills and employability. Yet another example of government initiative targeted at the youth is the implementation of the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Plan. The NEIP presents a multi-pronged approach that creates a conducive and friendly business environment to stimulate enterprise activities and provide integrated national support for startups and small businesses that would generate employment for the youth. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, these programs, among others, such as Planting for Food and Jobs and the One District, One Factory, have started in earnest, and government is keeping a close eye on the results we should be expecting. Ladies and gentlemen, as we plan to commemorate World Youth Day on the 12th of August, we must pause to reflect on what pathways we need to pursue to achieve sustainable development. I want to advocate for what some have called for an economic citizenship strategy for children and youth. This is an emerging concept in the field of development, which refers to economic and civic engagement to promote sustainable livelihoods and sustainable economic and financial well-being, amongst others. It is my fervent belief that avenues such as these will contribute significantly to creating space to engage in dialogue with young people on issues that influence and affect their development, thus giving meaning to the theme of today's meeting, which is Open and Responsive Government, Pathway to Sustainable Development. It is therefore my fervent hope that your meeting will come out with concrete and actionable points that can be implemented and monitored and help contribute to a government's objectives in ensuring sustainable development for the youth. Before I take my seat, I wish to thank the organizers for inviting me to deliver the keynote remarks, and most importantly, you, the audience, for having listened to me. I wish you fruitful deliberations for the rest of the meeting and best wishes ahead of International World Youth Day. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Appinting. Next to give us remarks will be the board chairman of Mcdonald Group of Companies.
For me, the youth is very important in this country. A lot of people think the youth population in Ghana is less than 40%, but I'm taking it up to about 68%. What is Ghana youth up for? I have traveled far and wide. I have seen many countries. I have interacted with many youth all over the world. And one thing that struck me most is the Ghanaian youth is very intelligent, very assertive, but very slow. You are here as young entrepreneur, young diplomats. What is the next step for you? I normally like to speak to the youth directly so that we can understand each other. What is killing the Ghanaian youth is everything had to be cast in stone. Every time the Ghanaian youth want to be helped, every time the Ghanaian youth is trying a new thing without common sense. Forgive my language, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't speak the English of a diplomat. Neither do I speak the English of an economist or a politician. I speak sharp. So forgive me, but I believe that we are brothers and sisters. If you can pick a cue for what I'm saying, you understand that the Ghana tomorrow is for all of us. And you have a brighter future in the Ghana today. Because some of you will be diplomats, ministers, parliamentarians, presidents, governors. I mean, you can understand what I mean. But how do you get there? Are you getting there fully loaded in brains, or you are getting there empty? Do you want to go through the academics? Just go ahead and get your promotions through your work without being a very, very, very industrious youth. If I may say, not long ago, I interviewed 48 MBA students. I said this on one platform. I didn't get a single one of them to employ because I didn't see. They have nothing to offer me on the job market. Do you want to be a young diplomat to step out there empty? What do you read? How do you challenge your own environment as a young diplomat? Are you part of this organization because it's young diplomats? Why are you here? What do you want here? What do you need out of here? That's the question you have to ask yourself. From that day, I decided not to employ degrees and diplomas anymore. I started employing attitude. What is killing the Ghanaian youth is the right attitude. So anywhere I go, I try to press down on attitude. Simply because if you want to be a billionaire, 70% is attitude. 25% is skill, the skill you have. 5% is the knowledge. So how do you get there? What do you want as a Ghanaian youth? African youth. Some of you will step out there. You'll be working in the West African sub-region. You'll be in the West African Parliament. Some of you will stand as MPs. I mean, the opportunities out there very great. But how do you challenge yourself as a young diplomat? Do you want to read books? One thing I noticed was that young men of today wants to be rich as at yesterday. There is one underlying factor in becoming rich. There's something called consistency. If there is no consistency in your vocabulary, there's no way you can get there. You will see a youth today in the IT sector. Tomorrow, you'll find him in the banking sector because his friend just got a promotion in the banking sector. Another youth, you see him somewhere else. If you don't take time, you spend 15, 20 years of your life just moving from one job to another job and staying in the single and chamber bedroom. For me, why are you here? From today, as the liberation starts today, I need you to ask yourself that question. Why are you here as a young diplomat? What do you want to do for Madagascar? This is a very good topic. The theme, open and responsive government, pathway to sustainable development. This is for you and me. How do you understand that theme? What is the theme made up of? What are you taking out of that film? What part do you play just on that theme? All of you turn and read the theme again. I need you to read it to your own understanding. Open and responsive government. Pathway to sustainable development. You think this is for government of Ghana? This is for you and me. How do we see this? How do we understand it? It's for you and me. How do we see this thing? You live here for yourself. What do you do to make a difference in the society you find yourself in? How do you step out of here to be a better person tomorrow? You do it for yourself and you do it for Madagascar. But for me, by the end of these deliberations, I want each and every one of you to take something out of here. I want to be noted, not for how much money I have made, but how many lives I have touched. That is what I want to be noted for. What do you want to be noted for? Some of you are very great in the brains. What do you add to the society around you? I don't want to ask my children, when you grow, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a diplomat? Or you want to be a doctor? I want to ask my children, what solution do you want to bring to mankind? What can you create? What can you add to the world you came to meet? Have a lovely deliberation. I wish you all the best.
At this point, I would invite the meeting host, Mr. John Appiah, to say, you take over your job. He'll come and take over from here. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Morris, for stepping in for me. This is a meeting of young people, and in as much as we may want to be diplomatic in our engagement and interaction, I think there can be excitement in the air, because this is too serious, like we are the UN trying to agree on a new set of goals to pursue as a nation or as the whole globe. So guys, lighten up. We're here to talk serious business, but that doesn't mean that, you don't smile when somebody says something which is funny. You can't afford to laugh because you're a diplomat. I beg, let's slow down. All right. So the next session, what we'll do is that we'd like to know what's on the mind of young people. Most of the time, we realize that we have people outside the brackets of the youthful ages speaking on behalf of young people. But we want to change the paradigm. We want to know clearly, firsthand from young people, the things that matter to them, the things that are of great concern to them. Because most of the time, when our governments are formulating policies and other stuff, they really think and do what they think is right for us as young people. But we have our own thoughts and we have our own thinking around some of these things. So in the next few minutes, we'll invite a group of young people forward to share with us what's on their mind and what's the thoughts they have with regards to specific sectors in the development of our nation. So to open the discussion for us, we have Dominic Gadeka. He's going to speak on health. So you can see him as the Minister of Health, Shadow Minister of Health. Let's listen to him and know what's on his mind with regards to health. Please put your hands together for him.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. This afternoon, I stand to speak on health, specifically non-communicable diseases. Health is the resource for everyday living. Good health is wealth, a wealth that ensures economic transformation for sustainable national development. As rightly put by Alan Spector, there's nothing more important than our good health. It is our principal capital asset. It is therefore not surprising that the goal 3 of the Sustainable Development Goals is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages by the year 2030. Being more specific, target 3.4 of the goal 3 is to reduce by 1/3 premature mortality and from non-communicable diseases through prevention and treatment and promote mental health and well-being. Non-communicable diseases refer to non-infectious and non-transmissible diseases. The 4 major types of NCDs or non-communicable diseases are cardiovascular diseases, example heart attack, hypertension, stroke, cancers, diabetes, and chronic respiratory diseases, examples asthma and chronic obstructive lung diseases. These 4 account for more than 42% of the total annual death in Ghana. Cardiovascular disease is the single largest contributor, followed by cancers, diabetes, chronic respiratory diseases. According to the WHO, Ghanaians between the ages of 30 to 70 years of age have 20% chance of dying from one of these 4 major non-communicable diseases. Mental health disorders is virtually not spoken of. Meanwhile, depression is ranked the 5th health problem causing disability in Ghana. As young people, our main worry is the continual rise and early ages of development of these non-communicable diseases, coupled with health systems challenges. These are threats to the very good future we yearn for. We fear because there is a continual increase in our population, urbanization, unhealthy lifestyles, increased production of fizzy drinks coupled with high content of sugar, salt, and trans fat in our food, while there continues to be lack of comprehensive operational policies regarding NCDs prevention, lack of national guidelines and standards for the management of major non-communicable diseases through primary care approach, no NCD or non-communicable surveillance and monitoring system, and lack of robust health system. We fear because these diseases have high economic, physical, psychological, and social burdens, which are not only threats to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, but our very own lives. I therefore wish to use this medium to appeal to all of us to stop or reduce tobacco or alcohol intake, reduce salt intake, consume less sugar, while we call on government to put policies into action, provide evidence-based clinical guidelines for treating non-communicable diseases, make available human papilloma virus vaccines for cervical cancer because it is a vaccine preventable disease, incorporate breast, cervical, and colorectal cancer screening into the primary health care system, increase service coverage for mental health disorders, establish depression-friendly services or centers in the country. Additionally, we ask government to enact or enforce relevant legislation to provide a backbone for food, tobacco, and alcohol policies while ensuring productive collaboration with civil society, private sector, health and non-health sector, example agricultural sector, and academia for contextual, clinical, and public health or epidemiological research. My fellow youth, your presence here today is a sign of your hope and commitment for a better tomorrow. I therefore call on you to provide the innovations, example technological innovations we need in our health system. Volunteer your skills, talent to create awareness, promote health, and engage in research to help build a better Ghana. Additionally, I wish to humbly appeal to the media to champion the advocacy and awareness creation. In conclusion, I wish to quote Sir Winston Spencer Churchill, a British statesman and Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1940 to 45 and 1951 to 55. He says, and I read, "Healthy citizens are the greatest asset any country can have." Thank you.
Thank you very much. And when it comes to matters of health, we all have a role to play. Like you rightly pointed out, I'm sure there are some attitudes you have towards maybe sugar. A lot of us like sugar, sweet things. We are young, let's enjoy our youth. What else can we do but enjoy? But remember that if you don't have a healthy body, all the plans and ambitions and the dreams and the visions you have will come to nothing. So ladies and gentlemen, as we wait on governments to put in place policies, let us put in place our own personal policies to ensure we live long to see a better Ghana. Can I have people who agree with me? Okay, good. All right, now let's move on. It is now time for us to hear something about youth unemployment. And I was a bit excited when Doctor was speaking about the fact that he no longer employs people with MBAs and other things like that. It means that, look, Charlie, Assembly is serious. Okay, so if governments since the time we were born have been promising youth unemployment to solve it, and we've had several governments and it appears the problem still exists, what do we think as young people? And to help us lead that discussion, Nana Adjoa Obiya Enim will help us. Please put your hands together for her.
Thank you very much. I'm here to deliver on youth unemployment. All protocol observed, ladies and gentlemen. Youth unemployment has become a global phenomenon that countries all over the world are trying to deal with, and Ghana is no exception. The exact rate of unemployment in the country varies from different sources, but they all point to the fact that youth unemployment is on the rise in Ghana. The president, in the second State of Nations address, described youth unemployment as staggering. And in the recent mid-year budget review, the finance minister described unemployment as the most critical economic problem of our time. This ties to the words of the vice president that job creation is the ultimate measure of a country's economic policy, and that no matter what the government does, no matter the policies they put in place, if graduates and youth are not able to have jobs for themselves, all these claims are pointless. The dire consequences of youth unemployment are so diverse, and I don't want to attempt listing them. Now let us go to what we, the youth, can do. Let us be proactive and innovative, and let us take advantage of every available avenue to enhance ourselves. We all have special skills embedded in us. Let us encourage each other to put them to use to make the country developed. We should also think big. Let us think entrepreneurship. Let us create the jobs we so desire for ourselves. The Nation Builders Corps initiative by government to tackle graduate unemployment in Ghana is a step in the right direction. But government should also empower and create the right environment for businesses and startups to thrive and become successful so that they can compete in the global market. Government can also partner with successful entrepreneur moguls for them to invest in youthful innovations and ideas. This will promote sustainable development, as it will create a platform for youth to achieve their goals through entrepreneurship, productive employment, and enterprise development to achieve Sustainable Development Goal 8 on decent work and economic development. Thank you.
Please put your hands together for her. So I'm not too sure how to call her Minister of Youth Unemployment or Minister of Youth Employment, but she spoke on youth unemployment and she raised some very important points. Now let's talk about SDGs, and to help us lead that discussion, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Sabina Ejewa.
Good afternoon. Distinguished speakers, invited guests, delegates of cohorts 1 and 2, participants, the media, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to speak on the Sustainable Development Goals. The SDGs, also known as Global Goals, are a set of 17 ambitious goals adopted by world leaders from 193 states at the United Nations in September 2015. The goals are a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. The beautiful thing about these goals is that they are interconnected. That is, the key to success on one will involve tackling issues more commonly associated with the other. For Ghana to achieve these goals or make considerable strides in its implementation will, among others, mean economic freedom for all of us. This will break barriers to employment and entrepreneurship, assessing quality education and healthcare services, attaining gender equality and equity, maintaining peace and security, and strengthening the bond between governmental and non-governmental actors. Let me use this opportunity to congratulate His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for the commitment exhibited in implementing and achieving the SDGs in Ghana. Mention can be made of the interministerial committee he inaugurated last year to oversee the implementation of these goals, headed by Professor George Jan Barfour, and also the setting up of the SDGs unit at the presidency, headed by Dr. Eugene Owusu. As the key group of people with the most to benefit if the SDGs are achieved and the most to lose if these goals are not met, government should create a platform for us to be involved in its programs and policies and the implementation, monitoring and evaluation of these goals. Young people are unique, dynamic and active drivers of social change. We are enthusiastic, energetic, and goal-oriented. We know where we want to be in the years ahead of us. The power of technology makes us well-informed and resilient, and we should be given the space and recognition to work with the government to translate these goals into local, regional, and national policies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sabina. Please put your hands together for her. Next, we're going to talk about education. Can I see by hands young people here who are worried with regards to the way it appears our educational sector is moving? Exactly. So there will be a lot of pressure on the head of the next person. Andrews Aidan, are you going to give us a double track, triple track, or what are you going to say? Please put your hands together to welcome him.
Good afternoon. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocol duly observed. Please, I'm speaking on education. Education is the key to the development of every country. For a country to be economically strong and sound, education cannot be left out. It is through education that the youth are impacted with the nation's philosophy and ideologies, as well as the acceptable norms and race culture. To have a vibrant and skillful youth to occupy the various working positions within the country, it is education we must rely on. But in recent times, what seems to be political interference in our education system leaves much to be desired. Mention can be made of what happened to the 4-year SHS program introduced by former President Kufuor in 2007, as well as the clash of ideologies, or direction for the free SHS policy. Politicization or overindulgence of politics in our education system makes it difficult to fully assess the impact of an educational policy. For instance, we never had the benefit of knowing the continuous positive impact or otherwise of the 4-year SHS program for our country. Also, politicization of education policies does not encourage the support of all Ghanaians and stakeholders in the implementation of these policies. We all know the education system is already bedeviled with major challenges that requires urgent solutions. Talk about the very theoretical nature of our tertiary programs, less attention to technical and vocational education, inadequate infrastructure and learning materials, unavailability of teachers in rural areas, consistent agitation by graduate and university teachers, among others. Today, it is a known fact that Ghana is one of the countries in Africa that spends a higher percentage of its total budget and GDP on education. Therefore, the overall impact of education on our socioeconomic development should be the major consideration in the formulation and implementation of policies on education, but not political gains. Parliament should lead the way in a multi-stakeholder consultation to arrive at a consensus with a legal framework on the direction of our education system. With this, education can be left out of political campaigns and promises. As young people, let us look for avenues to continue to acquire knowledge, educate ourselves, and grow our skills beyond the classroom experience. Knowledge, they say, is power. With knowledge, we can effectively play our part in national development. Also, let us consider volunteering to teach in rural areas from time to time in basic schools with teaching deficits. With this, we will put a smile on the faces of these younger folks and brighten their education aspirations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aidan, for your thoughts on education. Now let's talk about sanitation. And to help us with sanitation, Benedicta Gogo will lead us. Please put your hands together for her.
Good afternoon, distinguished speakers, invited guests, fellow cohorts 1 and 2. Distinguished speakers, invited guests, fellow cohorts 1 and 2, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. Sanitation refers to the maintenance and delivery of clean, hygienic conditions that help prevent diseases through services such as supply of clean water, safe disposal of human waste and garbage collection. In 2015, the World Health Organization and the United Nations Children Fund, Unicef, released a report in which Ghana slipped and was ranked as the 7th dirtiest country in the world, having been ranked 10th in 2014. We can all attest to the fact that sanitation problem facing our dear nation is a major challenge, and to a large extent be described as a disaster. The failure of the country in curbing the sanitation menace has now become a cliche. This, among many other factors, has led to devastating effects which are always captured in the news day after day. Yet, no progress seems to have been made. Outbursts of diseases such as cholera, diarrhea, malaria, typhoid fever, skin diseases, etc., is a direct outcome of the sanitation canker, in addition to the continuous decline in tourism as well as floods across the country during the rainy season, which cost the nation about $290 million annually. For our country to make any progress, Parliament should give legal backing to the numerous sanitation bylaws adopted by the various metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies, MMDAs, across the country. Parliament should further lay the mechanisms for its enforcement, monitoring and evaluation, for which heads of the local authorities should be held responsible and persecuted for failing to enforce the laws in their various assemblies. The Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources recently launched an app that will enable the ministry to collect real-time data on sanitation-related issues in Accra as part of efforts by the Greater Accra Metropolitan Assembly to enhance their data collection on sanitation-related issues. This is a step in the right direction and should be replicated across the country. Government should show the political will to fight the menace and also invest and partner with civil society organizations, youth groups, academia, and technocrats for a well-executed awareness campaign to educate citizens about the devastating effects of poor sanitation, while it champions innovative waste management mechanisms. As young people, let us be very creative and innovative and develop positive attitudes to help solve the many challenges facing our country, especially in sanitation. We can also leverage on the power of social media to educate ourselves and advocate for an improved sanitation regime in Ghana. As the saying goes, charity begins at home. Let us start from our various homes by cleaning up our neighborhoods, creating awareness about the effects of poor sanitation, and discourage others from throwing rubbish on the streets and engaging in open defecation. In conclusion, I wish to say collectively, we can all work hard to achieve the targets of Goal 6 of the Sustainable Development Goals on clean water and sanitation. Thank you.
Benedicta, thank you very much. Now we want to listen to Miss V. Oh, no excitement. Oh, Charlie, you guys. Let the fans flow. Yeah. We believe that as young people, we can still use entertainment as a medium to make impact and make a positive impact. And Miss V is a very good example. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put hands together for Miss V.
Thank you very much. It's so tense walking to the podium because everybody's like, okay. So, I've been working with the World Bank for some time now, and the World Bank has the aim of ending extreme poverty by the year 2030, and I believe that's very possible. Is it possible? Are you sure you believe it? Okay, so in my own small way as an ambassador, my role is to create a positive cycle so that the next generation can free themselves from extreme poverty. And how am I doing that? I have a high school tour where I go with influencers, people who are doing so well in their various fields, in any industry you can think of. And I've been going to these schools for about 2 years now. And I can tell you that the response I'm getting from heads of the schools and even the kids themselves, crazy responses. And we go to empower these kids and let them know that education is very important. And education doesn't have to be just that you get your master's or your PhD or your degree, or you need some paper with some, hat saying that you've been educated to say yes, you've learned something. It can also be through bettering yourself at some skill that you have or talent you have, or just learning a certain trade. This alone can help you break free from poverty. So this is what we go to the schools to tell them. And I always give this example that growing up, I'm from a family of 6, and we grew up in a 1-bedroom. It wasn't even a bedroom, was it? It was a small cubicle, and we were 6. My 3 siblings, my mom, my dad, and myself. And my mom did something genius. She learned how to cook some more. She already loved to cook, but she decided to just better herself at cooking. So she learned how to make local foods and different types of foods, continental foods. And she started by just selling a plate of rice by the roadside. If I say we were poor, we were extremely poor. Poor to the point where there was no food at certain times, and my mom will have to save maybe the last plate of gari or bowl of gari for me to eat, because I'm the last born. So that's how bad it was. They weren't able to put us in school, but she started to just better herself. She didn't have the means to go to school or get a PhD. That's very good. But when you know you can't do that, you have to harness your own skills and try to better yourself. And that's exactly what she did. So she started with this pot of rice, which became 2 pots of rice. And then there was banku and there was okro and all those nice foods. And at the end of the day, she put us in Saito schools. We started from there. And then she kept going, and she didn't stop. And she kept going, and she got a chop bar. And then we went to a better school. And then she got a restaurant. And I went to St. Martin de Forest. And then I went to St. Mary's Senior High School. And then I went to Ghana Technology University. And then I went to Central University. So that's what I'm saying, that education is not only about the masters and the PhDs and the degrees. It's about you yourself, what you love to do. Simple as that, can make so much money for you. So this is what we go to the schools to tell them. And so this is the positive cycle I'm talking about, because a lot of these kids, we go to the schools and they feel as if, some of them ask questions like, Miss V, if I finish school right now, my mom says I should stay at home and do this, and my mates will be doing all these things and going to these schools, but we can't afford to. And that's where we come in and tell them that it's okay to help your mom at work. If you can't afford what your other friends are doing, just stick with what you know. If you can sweep, be the best sweeper in the entire world. And they laugh about this, but they've taken it so seriously that it's actually helping them. So this is what we talk about when we say education. It's vast. It's not just about getting 10 over 10 on a piece of paper. It's about using your mind as well. I'm also working with Unicef on menstrual hygiene management. And just recently we went to a very remote part of Tamale, Ketejele and Pandai. Yes, and I realized that there's so many girls who have no idea what menstrual hygiene management is. A lot of girls in remote areas feel as if menstruation is a curse or is something that shouldn't happen. So I feel like I have this duty to share knowledge that I get from anywhere and impact and let people, the younger people, understand and also learn from what I have got from anywhere else. That's why I associate myself with so many good causes like this. Like, I care about the environment so much that when Obo called me and said I should come and be an ambassador for the Save Etiwa Forest initiative, I was so excited, because I feel as a Ghanaian, you should care about what happens to your country. You should care about your environment. You should care about what happens to your sister. You should care about what happens to your brother. And anything that affects us in this part of the world will go a long way to affect other people in other parts of the world. So we are working with, I actually just came from the airport. from the Netherlands. We are working with IUNC, and we are trying to throw more light on this Etiwa forest, because the Etiwa forest has 3 very important rivers flowing through it: Densu, Yensu, and Brim. And these rivers provide water to over 5 million Ghanaians. But so many people do not know this. We sit at home and then we enjoy drinking water and we are fine. But there's been a lot of galamsey going on in that forest, and it's destroying the water bodies and it's depleting the forest. It's so bad that the surrounding communities who fish from those water bodies and farm in those forests do not have jobs. And right now, government is saying that, oh, they want to mine bauxite in the forest so that they can create jobs. Really? People have been mining for years and years. And how many jobs has it created? We already have people making a living from farming in that forest. We already have people fishing and being able to feed their families and trying to break that chain of poverty just from that forest. So this is what we went to do in the Netherlands, to get, Council of Chiefs from that area, the Etiwa forest area, to sign a petition and to make, governments see that this is actually a very important place that has to be protected. We don't need to mine anything there. We should leave it as it is, and we are pushing for it to become a national park. I feel that we can all really support this by adding our voices. There's this saying that, with one man for himself, God for us all. Charlie, yeah. But at the end of the day too, if we think about just ourselves, what will become of the rest of the country? What will become of all of us as a whole? So sometimes, yeah, you can be selfish, but once in a while, you need to think about somebody other than yourself. Thank you very much.
I want us to be very honest with ourselves. If you've never seen her face to face, this is your first time seeing Miss V. Am I beautiful? Well done, Miss V. Thank you very much for the positive impact you're making on young people and on the nation Ghana. Can you imagine if your favorite musician or entertainment person does something positive to help the development of this nation? There's a particular person on my mind I cannot mention here for security reasons, but I think in our own ways we can put a bit of influence on these superstars, so to say, because they indeed have a very positive role to play to make this world a better place. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that said, we would like to move straight to the panel discussion. And I'm sure you've gone through the book that contains the names and the details of the people that are going to be on the panel. So I don't want to waste much time. I will just mention their names and then they will take their seats and then we'll go into that discussion. All right, so let's begin with Mrs. Theodora William Anti, who is the programs manager for FODSA Ghana. Please put your hands together for her as she makes her way to the panel. Is she available? Mrs. Theodora. Okay, she's coming. Please put your hands together for her. And then let's also put our hands together and welcome Mr. Emmanuel Eduzi, who is the Executive Director, Youth Empowerment Synergy. Please put your hands together for him as he takes his seat. Let's also put our hands together and welcome Mr. Kofi Abuchi. He's the Dean of the Gimpa Law Faculty. And let's put our hands together for Dr. Daniel Macaulay, who's the Board Chairman of the Mcdonald Group of Companies. Please put your hands together for him. We were expecting to get some other people, but due to one or two reasons, we were unable to have them on the panel. But we are convinced that we can have a very exciting discussion. So we'll send the microphones to them, and then we can begin our discussion.
All right. Now, as you are aware, our discussion today is on creating an enabling environment for youth innovation and activism as prospects to ensure open and responsive government. And we are grateful to our panel members for making time to be with us. We'll try and make the discussion very straight to the point so that we can get the best out of them. And I must say that Dr. Macaulay may not stay with us throughout the entire discussion, so a bit of emphasis in the first few minutes will be given to him to be able to make his points to us, and then maybe he can get to attend to some other events as well. Oh, good. Please put your hands together for him. Okay. So this is how we want to begin. There's been lots of talk about youth involvement in national development, youth involvement in pushing the development agenda and all that. But for the first few minutes, I want to take the thoughts of my esteemed panelists on what they see as the main issues on the ground. Do we have enough young people actually showing and proving that they are capable of handling, decision making and contributing to positive decision making? They are people that work with young people, so they understand what is on the ground. So let me start from Dr. Macaulay. From your experience as an entrepreneur. Okay, so we'll pass it on to Prof to start for us. He's the Dean for the Gimpa Law Faculty. So, Prof, please, let's find out from you in your engagement with young people, maybe through your lectures, through the other events you attend to, and your travel all over the world and all that. Do you really believe that the Ghanaian youth is ready to make an impact?
Yes, thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation. I think the Ghanaian youth are ready to make an impact if some things change. I think what we experience, and let's put things in context. First of all, the youth population in Ghana reflects that of Africa. An African youth population is 60% of the overall population. Therefore, the youth ordinarily should be the movers and shakers of things. The reason I think the youth in Ghana and Africa in particular have not made much progress may have to do both with history and with current trend of things. The historical part. Politically, the African political elites are still by and large non-youthful. And they are non-youthful because over the years, the African political elite who have stayed in power, not democratically, refused to go, have converted themselves to reluctant Democrats. So what we have is that we have a bunch of people at the political helm who are non-youthful, but who are making policies for the vast majority of people who are the youth. If the population of Ghana and population of Africa is 60% youthful, then by proportion, we should have 60% more youthful people in the leadership scheme of things. But by leadership, I'm not talking necessarily of political. I'm speaking of political leadership, but I'm also speaking of public service leadership. If you go to the public service today, do a demographic survey, you'll see on the face of it that the majority of these are non-youthful. Non-youthful by the United Nations definition, by which the bracket of youth ends up 25, which means I am not youthful, for example. And that's what it means. So it's important that we should put this in perspective and just get that clear. But on the other hand, putting things in context in Ghana, because of globalization, that makes things even more dire. Someone went out there and spoke about education. The difficulty of education and the dangers of education as we have in Ghana today is that sooner than later, the youth in Ghana they're already struggling, but sooner than later, the youth in Ghana ordinarily will simply have no job to do in terms of aspirational occupation. Many people today are doing things, but they're not doing things they wish they will be doing. So you have a lot of people who are actually either underemployed or reluctantly employed. They are in places they are just ordinarily not interested in. And the reason is because the globalization of services and goods have resulted in a situation in which there are no borders, frankly speaking. So generally, someone can be educated in Singapore. He ends up relocating in Ghana because he sees in the newspaper an advertisement of a position he can ordinarily occupy. He applies for it. You have also applied for it from Ghana. We are here jigsawing with our education. Today is 3 years. The following year is 4 years. Another time is 2.5 years. And nobody can really, as it were, in a predetermined way, ascertain what exactly the education of Ghana is in terms of structure. All these undermine the prospects of the youth. And I think that since politics is king in Ghana, the youth must decide to become kingmakers. Now, if the youth become kingmakers, politicians and policy makers will engage the youth. Today, and I'm just handing over the microphone, but today the youth have allowed themselves to be fractionalized and balkanized. And because you've been fractionalized, politicians are happy, using you as and when it pleases them. They really just do not listen to you because you're not the kingmakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll come back to get some further clarity on some of the issues you raised, but let's come to you, Doc. Most of the time, young people appear to be determined. They appear to be convinced that they can make the difference. But when given the opportunity, sometimes they fail to deliver. Looking at where you sit and from your experience as an entrepreneur, what really will you zone in as the major issues we have with the young people in Ghana actually delivering on the aspirations that they have?
Thank you very much. I believe that to be determined to do something is quite positive. And that is one thing about the youth of this country. I just launched the Mcdonald Entrepreneur Challenge, and I had about 7,000 applicants. I just need one winner. And the winner is going to win $100,000. About 90% of those who applied, they have ideas, but you can be able to tell that they don't have the foresight. They have the drive, but they don't know where they are going. So I decided to make it a reality show, a reality program on GTV, so that the millions of youth who didn't get the opportunity to participate can be able to fix in the puzzles of what they have. I can tell you about 90% of the youth have business plans, but they don't know what to do, how to go about it. So for me, the Ghanaian youth is highly determined, but there's something missing here. I always put the blame at the kind of educational curricula that we have. I gathered some few professors, and I asked them to change the curricula. It's too theoretical. And after finishing school, you realize that you don't fit into the job market. And that is quite risky for the future of this country. We have to get certain things straightened up in our educational curricula. And Ghana is a bit, if I may say, a bit volatile when it comes to the job market. So you as ambassadors, you have to think beyond the box. Some of you get out there, all you do is to move like a horse in the track. And that will not help you. You have to be a bit diverse. Even if you are in school, try to take some internships. Try to have some kind of practical experience. Get yourself connected. So as you said, we have to, I don't want to blame politicians and government too much, because necessity is many a times what can define you. Ms. V just spoke about necessity. Look how she is defined. Prim and proper today. She's making money out of necessity. What do you think can define you? So for me, this is a question spot on. And we have to look at our educational curricula and see how to refix it. Thank you.
All right. So let me come to you, Mr. Eduji. You deal directly with the youth in terms of getting us the right policies or helping influencing the right policy. Now, some have said that when it comes to youth being creative, we see lots of them in Ghana. People are entrepreneurial, people are taking on very bold ambitions and all that. But when it comes to youth activism, the actual process where young people exert positive influence on policymakers, how will you rank the young people of Ghana in that particular regard? Because as for creativity, nobody denies it. We have the creativity and all that. But when it comes to youth activism, how do you rank the young people in Ghana? Where did we go wrong? And I would like to read something for all of us to just listen to. Now, this is a high school student, and I will just read a quote. We are not here to be patted on the back. We are not here to be told we are doing so much, because we know what we are doing, and we are doing it for a reason. We are doing it so our legislators will know that they need to make a change in the law, and they need to take us seriously, so that they will not dismiss us any longer, and they will not reschedule meetings with us, so that they don't push us into another room as they dance around our questions. Because we came here prepared, and we're going to come to every single meeting with every single legislator prepared. We know what we want, and we want gun reform. And this is a high school student speaking on gun reform in the United States of America. Mr. Duji, do we see stuff like this happening in our Ghanaian context? Young people getting PhDs, MBAs, and all that, entrepreneurs and all that. But when it comes to exerting influence on our legislation, what is missing? What seems to be the problem?
Well, thank you. Before I answer your question, if you allow me, I want to address the perception or the seeming perception that especially Dr. Macaulay seems to give, that young people may not be as determined as they should be or that in your earlier conversation, he said they were slow. And then I'm excited that when he advertised for his competition or some opportunity, there were, according to him, quite a large number of responses. I want us to put on record, and I can debate anyone on any platform, that the Ghanaian youth is an important epitome of exuberance, skill, progress, success, but most importantly, determination. You just have to park your car, walk on the streets from the Liberation Avenue, and you will see hundreds of young people doing any possible venture to survive. So the Ghanaian youth in general can be deemed to be determined and to be seeking opportunities. But I think what is necessary is for us to recognize that there is only so much a young person or a group of youth can do within a limited policy environment. And that's what brings me to the substantive point about public policy. We're in a country where, as we speak, the last national youth policy of this country was announced, I believe, on the 10th of August in 2010, 8 years ago. So we can actually boldly say that there is no national youth policy in Ghana unless the recent government of President John Mahama or the current government of President Nana Akufo-Addo wants to say that they were still implementing the 2010 one. If they won't say that, then we have not had a national youth policy in this country since then. Now, juxtapose that with the full knowledge of every Ghanaian of our understanding of the essence and the usefulness of policy direction. Where in Ghana, the biggest criticism of our political class is that we turn out so many policies, sometimes just to fill the shelves. But when it comes to national youth policy, we seem to know nothing about how to do it. We are either not interested in placing youth at the forefront of our national agenda, which is what a national youth policy does. We're not probably also interested in prioritizing the issues of youth, which is another thing a youth policy does. But most importantly, we're not interested in bringing cohesion into our approach of addressing youth issues, which is probably the foremost dividend that a national youth policy can give you as a nation. So what are we seeing? In the last government, and I give examples for both so that I'm not seen to be biased. In the recent government, we had about 4, I think we can mention, YES, National Program for Youth, Youth Enterprise Support Fund. We had the YEA, which is now law, which is now by parliamentary bill. We had a number of them. What we saw was a very incoherent approach in addressing the issues of youth. And so if you follow the politics, there was a lot of discussion about how to harmonize the government approach to youth development in the country. And I heard the current youth minister during his vetting mention this point about prioritizing, harmonizing the youth sector. And if anyone here can bear witness, we heard this. But what do we see now? I think now we even have more youth programs than 5. Almost every other month, there's a new one. The latest was a presidential youth pitch, something that gives money to certain youth. Question is, in development, if there's any development studies student here, we say that if you don't know where you're going, every road looks like it's going there. And that's because you don't know where you're going. If we don't know where we are going with the youth agenda, if we don't know where the youth agenda fits into our national development, then all the point about educational curriculum and educational pedagogy will make no sense. Because, first of all, A youth policy will set the direction that we want to go at. How many young people are we going to have in the youth age bracket? First of all, who is youth? Please, young diplomats, if I ask you, and we have a fantastic pleasure meeting you, sir. I've read a lot of your work. Fantastic academic and lawyer on the panel. If I ask you, who is youth in Ghana? Because you, when you spoke, you brilliantly used the international definition. I thought you should have been telling us who a young person is in Ghana. We don't even know. There's no youth law in Ghana. We have a Children's Act, but we don't have a Youth Act. We have a National Youth Authority Act. So don't be deceived. Nobody should tell you we have a Youth Act. We have a National Youth Authority Act that defines and sets the agenda for that institution, the board, the membership, and all of that. But we don't have any legal definition. Please correct me, I'm complete with the time, if you do. That there is no definition except for what was included in that first and only national youth policy that I referred to, which was released in 2010, that young people in Ghana would be defined as people between ages 15 and 35. Now, if we don't have a national youth policy today, then who are the youth we are working with? And if we don't have a youth law passed by parliament, then legally, what is your entitlement as young people? Who told you that you can demand accountability from leaders? What is your locus? Where are you from? Who told you that you are a young person? We don't even have that. So please, we need to set these kinds of discussions in their right perspectives to address the root cause of the issue. Because if we don't have that national focus, accountability becomes a problem. Because it's only when we have a national youth policy that defines who a young person is that will give me the opportunity to assess your performance as a government against those yardsticks. For example, a national youth
Mr.
policy...
just to push the conversation forward. So if we've been operating all this while without a youth policy, do we still need a youth policy? Just straight to the point so that we can take other people's say.
The resounding answer is a yes. And I'll tell you why in the shortest possible way. Because we don't have one good example, because we don't have a national youth policy, we are currently not able to know the impact of the recent government's youth efforts, and we don't see a clear direction of impact for the current government's youth work. So if you speak, we had a fantastic speech by the representative of the minister about an hour ago. You listen to all the fantastic work they are doing. And I'm not going to say that the work they are doing is not good. But the work they are doing cannot be achieving its full possible dividends because we don't know where we're going. We don't know how many jobs we need in the economy. We don't know how many youth will be in the economy in the next 4 years. We don't know the efforts that the education sector is innovating in order to achieve what goal. And so me, from civil society, I'm not able to tell whether we are making progress as a nation. And this is just one of the ways in which a youth policy is.
All right. We'll come back to that. But I would like to also introduce one of our panelists who just joined us. Mr. Eugene Kweku Bwedu is the head of corporate affairs at M Pedigree. If it's here, please come and take the seat and I will... Yes, please put your hands together for him as he comes. Now, Dr. Macaulay would like to respond to some of the things. And I must say that the panel is not here to agree. So, of course, we can debate, we can look at issues, and we can really look at the things that really matter to us. So, Doc, I'll give you the opportunity, but let me just take the young ladies. Madam, are you young? Okay, well, take your opinion with regards to the discussion we're having so far. And let me premise it this way. You know, most of the time, there's a lot of talk about women empowerment and women enablement and then all that. Now, fitting that into the paradigm of a young woman in Ghana, really, what are the prospects? What are they been up to? And how can we enhance the visibility of young women in the development agenda?
I asked. Why are you cornering me into gender?
Oh, no. I mean, you see, sometimes we need to... You don't understand what I'm saying? You don't. I know the ladies are shaking their head, but the point is that most often than not, when it comes to gender matters and gender issues. It's a very sensitive thing. And I always say that it's best to have somebody representing and speaking on behalf of the gender. If you put me to talk about women issues, I may appear to say things that may not really hit the nail on the head. So forgive me. But anyway, let's listen to you.
Thank you anyway. And thank you for inviting me, and thank for this very nice and great program. I'd like to go back to your first question as whether the youth are ready.
Yeah.
And I would actually like to put the question to the young people here.
Okay.
Ask them if they are ready.
Can we see show of hands, those who are ready?
Yeah. Are we ready to take up leadership positions? Are we ready to let our voices heard on decision-making issues? And that is what this is about.
Yeah.
I get excited actually when I meet young people who are interested in development, because in my work around, you see people who come in their numbers, but when there's time to push, they vanish because they have challenges. But I met a few people recently, like 2 weeks ago, great young people put together a VSO. And then I've met another one, and I'm really excited. Normally, I ask myself from the international schools, AIS, and all those people, and I ask, where are they actually? Where are those very brilliant people, you know, in big schools some time ago? Are they in Ghana? Are they working? Are they helping?
I'm sure they're all out of the country.
Exactly. I asked my mate, where are they? And this one is here, this one. But where are young people who want to help develop this country? And I'm excited we have diplomats or young diplomats who are interested in helping here. And I think that, yes, young people are ready, giving the right environment and giving the right policies. I am a CSO worker, so I'll always talk about policy and what government has to do. And I also always talk about what people have to do to push the government to work. We have historical issues like our doc or prof has said about young people. But in fact, going back to this theme, open and responsive government. And I think that the government is already open with democracy. We have a democracy, and therefore we already have an open government. What are we doing as young people? What are young people doing to feed into the democracy? Are you questioning policies that government is putting up? We have NAPCO. Has anybody bothered to find out how they are selecting the young people or the graduates? Has anybody ever bothered? Has anybody ever bothered how YEA is selecting the youth into their programs? Why do we have so many youth programs and yet there's so much unemployment? Have we bothered to ask that question and give it an answer? Well, I have bothered, and I know that the same young people who are political activists are being employed in NAPCO. The same person is taking salary from YEA. So YEA is reporting 100 young people. NAPCO is reporting the same, but they are the same people.
Double salary, how?
Exactly. So they are the same people going around, you know, the chain. And that's why we have so many young people still. If we care, we will find out these issues and start questioning. I want to hear young diplomats issue statements in the press. I want to hear them talk loud. When I was listening to the things you were saying, and I wasn't really impressed, honestly. We should push more. We should be more innovative. We should come up with more innovative ideas for governments. I mean, most of the things you said are things we already know and things already, well, we should push more, really. And so that's my take about gender. I was counting how many young people there are, young women that are in here, because everything should be in here. And I count, like, every 3, I see 1 female or something. There are more, right? But on this row, when I counted, I found more men than women. Anyway, but we have very few young women in decision-making spaces, and we have to push for more. We have to make deliberate efforts to bring up more women. I work with networks of young youth groups across the country sometimes, and we are planning to actually just do women or girl groups, just trying to, because in most of these youth groups, when you go, you see 20 young men and only 1 girl or 1 female, and it's a disaster, actually. And so we have to make very deliberate effort. It's a bit more expensive to bring the gender, to bridge the gender gap, but we have to make a lot of efforts to bridge it. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Doc, I'll come to you. Don't worry at all. Let me take the thoughts of Mr. Eugene Kwekubwedu. I'm sure you've been here for a while and you've been listening into the views that have been shared. Let me take your initial thoughts and then we can zoom into some specifics.
Thank you. I think it's refreshing to be in a room full of young faces. My work has put me in a position where I typically have to deal with policy people in Ghana and other parts of Africa, and they're usually old. So it's refreshing to be in a room where I think most people are either my age or much, much younger than I am. Quite clearly, Africa missed the first global revolution, which was the agriculture. It saw areas like America reducing the number of people that were involved in agriculture from a staggering 60% to something around 2%. The UK and the Americas use just about 2% of their population to generate all the agricultural needs. Africa missed out. In several societies in Africa, we still have something around 50 to 55% of the population involved in crop production, and it's still done by hand. Then there was the second revolution, which was the industrial. Again, we didn't see any proper mechanization of our society and our industries. Then there was the third, which was the IT. This time around, we got bits and pieces of it. We became consumers of it. So Africa now has about 93% of the population have access to mobile phones. My grandmother is 98, and she requested for a mobile phone a couple of weeks ago. So everybody has a mobile phone, everybody is Googling, everybody is on Facebook and on WhatsApp. We became consumers, and it has transformed the way in which we do certain things. For instance, like payments. Mobile phone payments have become a big deal, and its impact on the economy is quite clear for all of us to see. But we are still missing out in catching the bigger chunk of the IT revolution, which is ownership. Out of the top 20 most admired, most wealthy companies on the face of the continent, only one is African. And even that is domiciled in South Africa. There are no companies from West or East or Northern Africa taking charge of the commerce opportunities on the face of the planet. So, yes, we've caught on with the IT revolution. We missed out on the first two. We are waking up on the third one. But we're only consumers. We are scratching the faces. We are taking bits and pieces. We are taking the crumbs that are falling off the table. Out of the patents that are filed globally, only 2% is coming from Africa. We are not taking ownership. We are not defining the way in which we do business on the face of the continent in ways that will ensure that a significant portion of the wealth is retained on the face of the continent and reinvested. Already there's a fourth industrial revolution upon us, which is being birthed as a result of a sort of a mutation of the third. You're seeing things like AI, you're seeing things like machine learning, and stuff like that. Blockchain is now a big deal, a big discussion. And it is not clear our stand, it's not clear our blueprint, it's not clear what our strategy is. So when I envision the next 40, 50 years, as heartbreaking as it is, I have to admit that not much is going to change, because I do not see a youth that is prepared. In the speeches that were shared earlier by shadow ministers of government that, as they were described, unfortunately, there's still about 60 to 70% of the expectation is government should. Government won't do anything. If we think we are serious and we want to rescue this land and turn Africa from the depraved society it is, unfortunately, for it to assume its rightful place in God's universe, we have to take it. Nobody will give it to us. Government will not do anything. We have to demand it. We have to organize. We must have blueprints of our own. The problem is that we still suffer from the same ideational poverty that has struck the leadership of this continent for decades now. I mean, the truth is that we don't really have blueprints, do we? What's our plan to transform energy if we were made ministers of energy next year? What's your plan? What's our plan to transform health? So the shadow minister of health spoke about diseases. What we must realize is that a huge chunk of the diseases that are afflicting our people now are preventable. We need simple blueprints. We need to ban things like the harmful products that are entering our country. We need to use innovation. We need to use traceability to ensure that when you pick any item off the shelf, you can understand where it's coming from using your mobile phone. These are simple technologies that are in existence that we can use, that we can adopt. But so long as we continue to expect the older generation to come through for us, I'm afraid nothing is going to happen. Nothing hasn't happened over the last 5 decades. What convinces us that something is going to happen in the next 2 or 3 decades? We have to take it if we are serious.
Very exciting. So, Doc, let me bring you Dr. Macaulay. Your response to Mr. Eduji with regards to the determination of a young person in Ghana.
Oh, not really to respond to what he said, but facts are facts. You know, I am an employer. He's a policy maker. When the frog come from the river or the sea to tell you that the crocodile is dead, will you argue? You know, it's about time we face reality. And we have to be resource-oriented in this country. The policymakers are confusing the whole thing. That's my pain, you know? From the time they start writing youth policies, they never finish. They never finish. I have employed over 6,000 people. How many has he employed? And I am telling you, you see, my sister sitting out there said something very fantastic. There's a difference between being determined and being slow. Everybody finishing university, you write a project, right?
Yes.
Everybody write projects, right? Facing the job market is not about writing projects. You have determined people. She said something. She said, when it comes to the time to fight on, there's nobody there. That's what she said. That is what I mean. Ghanaian youth is very determined. But what results do we produce? When it comes to the time for us to fight on to the next stage, then we give up and go and take some chicken feed. I hope you understand. You know, I woke up one morning and I said to myself, Zuckerberg is making money in every home. The Facebook guy, right?
Yes.
You wake up, you pick your phone, you go to Facebook. Immediately you go there, he's making money out of you. What can we do as Ghanaian youth that you can make money out of every home when you also wake up? It might not be IT, right? My brother here said brilliantly that we are losing up. He's right. Agriculture, everything we are losing up, right? What can you do as an African youth? You wake up, you have something on every shelf in every home. That is the way we have to think. Bill Gates is making money every day in every home. I'm not talking about companies. What can we, African youth, do? I'm trying to change the face of logistics in Africa. That's my own. I'm going into agriculture. And I want to make sure that every home within the next 5-10 years, you wake up, you go to the kitchen, you pick something for me. You understand? When I mean the African, the Ghanaian youth is slow, that is exactly what our sister said. When it comes to the fight, my brother also said the same thing. When it comes to moving on, we give up. Then we go and sit somewhere waiting for our paycheck. Even while we wait for our paycheck, we don't give out our best. We sit and in our laziness, full of attitude, right? We have everything here. You see, let me tell you one thing. In this world, we have three people. We have people with all the ideas. You have all the ideas, but you can't move it. We have other people who don't have any idea. But when you give them idea, they fly with it. And we have the third type of people. There are only 2% in the world. They sit, they conceive, they create the idea, and they move with it. I believe as an ambassador, you find where you belong. If you know you are slow, that you don't have idea, get somebody with the ideas and make him your partner. If you feel you have all the ideas and your problem is your feet, you cannot move, get somebody who can move for you. Find your rhythm as a Ghanaian youth. You know, forgive me, but I don't know how to talk politically. As I said, I speak the truth. And I don't write policies. I employ and pay. I hope you understand. So I'm sorry, but
Oh, that's we need reality. I mean, we need to face reality. Prof, yes, maybe you can react to that.
Well, okay, no, so some just reacting to what is to be reacted to in terms of don't depend on government. I think it is true that we don't have to depend on government, but there are realities. And as I mentioned, let me give you an example. In the last election in 2012, this country came to a standstill before the election results were declared. Many companies were told were on speculative move. Some had even shipped money out of the country in anticipation of chaos. Anytime we have elections, there's major capital flight from Ghana. The city suffers shocks. That affects you. When there's chaos and there's civil war, there will be nothing. You have to influence the process. You cannot ignore government. Government provides the spaces in which you live. And therefore, this business of, and that is one of the fatal mistakes of business in Ghana. Businesses in Ghana sometimes tend to I don't want to do politics, it's not my business. Let the politicians do their own thing. Unfortunately, we have smart people, and that's why Ghana has two different societies. We have one society which is functional, which is efficient, which is effective. That is called the private sector. And then we have another society which is dysfunctional, which is inefficient, and which does nothing right. That is called the public sector. Yet the public sector shapes the private sector. So can you imagine the inefficient leading the efficient? That is Ghana's story.
Interesting.
And part of the reason for that is because we have this tendency of assuming this is for government. Look, Ghana, we're told, is the 7th dirtiest country in the world. That affects investments. No investor goes to a country where there are no livable spaces because the investor is a human being. The company is just the vehicle, but the investor is a human being. He needs a place where he can live, where his kids can go to school, or her kids can go to school. He needs a place where they can drive around and walk around without falling sick because of dirty environment. So the point I'm just trying to make it is true generally that, look, don't wait for government, but government provide the spaces. See the 5 banks that have just collapsed? That is my tax. That is your tax. 5 billion, which is going to be used to rescue private businesses and enterprise. And we stay behind and we watch a bunch of people do their own things, and their failure creates shocks throughout the system. And in the process, we have to save them from creating the systemic shock that all of us could be victims of. So the point I'm making is it's important, and I think I accept the general admonition that don't wait for government. Be creative. But you need to become influencers. And influencers mean become aggregate constituents. There must be the youth. The failure of Ghana today is the blurring of the lines between what is the state and what is political. That line has been blurred, and young diplomats must do well to bring government back to that line. This is the state. The state is the public service. The state is the civil service. The state is that entity that exists with or without a political party. That is the state. Unfortunately, we have had a situation where political parties have eaten away everything called the state, and that is why Parliament, which is supposed to be the state, has become part of the politics. So they have become an extended rubber stamping of the executive. We need the youth. The reason we need the youth is that the youth are the present owners of the Commonwealth, and the youth are going to produce the next owners of the Commonwealth through birth. So your children are going to be the next owners of the Commonwealth. The older ones, their children are you. So they're on the way out. But your children are going to be the inheritors of the Commonwealth, and you are the current owners of the Commonwealth. Unfortunately, the youth have joined the bandwagon of division. And that bandwagon of division is called politics. Poverty doesn't know the NDC or the NPP. Poverty knows you. So anytime you're going to vote, you ask yourself, by the time you finish casting your vote, you go back home to marry your poverty. So as you are doing the things that would outlast you, you need to reflect on what the state is and what the state should be, and the fact that you are ultimately the owners of the Commonwealth. So there is a constituency called the youth. Unfortunately, that constituency is yet to discover itself. And that is why bodies like this are useful, because it creates a sense of not only internalization, but a sense of self-awareness, a sense of introspection, a sense of identity. The youth must start identifying themselves, because you actually are an aggregate constituency. Unfortunately, at elections, you are balkanized and divided, and you are happy, and then you are used. And once you are used and then elections are won, you get back to the old state of poverty, the old state of miseducation, the old state of hunger, the very things that governments are supposed to provide. The fact that we have the Millennium Development Goals or the Sustainable Development Goals is a reflection of the failure of governments. In development circles, they call that external accountability. It's an external accountability because you have an external agency, the United Nations, telling our government what they should have been doing in the first place. That is a reflection of failure. And that reflection of failure, which we are discussing today, should not be allowed to continue through the process of division. So again, in conclusion, I accept the truth that don't wait and fold your arms waiting for government. Unfortunately, you can't ignore government because that entity can be the reason why, however creative you are, you fail.
Prof, very good point, but let me just push you further on this one. You train some of our legislators and all that. Now, I'm sure you're very much aware that every political party has a very active youth wing. So what happens to them when that particular political party comes into power? What happens to the youth activism that goes on at the political party level? That's one. And most of our legislators and political leaders were youth leaders when they were in school. They led, a lot of things in the universities and all that. But when they enter into government, is there something that actually happens to them such that they cut off everything to do with the youth and then empowering the youth to be able to be responsible?
Well, that's the point I was making, and I tried drawing attention to the fact that poverty doesn't know divisions. Poverty doesn't know party affiliations. Poverty is poverty. Unfortunately, the youth wings of these parties, and we have to call a spade a spade, the youth wings of these parties are not even ideological bastions. They are not even people who go there to learn ideology. Because I am one of the people who say Ghanaian politics, unfortunately, unfortunately lacks ideology. It's just a group of people who are waiting to seize power. If you ask them fundamentally, what the political party ideologies of the two parties are.
No idea.
And the reason partly is, I don't blame them. Partly the reason is because through institutions like the World Bank, we are the World Bank. The World Bank is part of the problem. Through the institutions like the World Bank, these parties have become gradually the same. Because the NDC social democratic, as they started, the NPP capitalist. But institutions like the World Bank have forced the NDC, for example, to become capitalist in character because you have to do private sector stuff. They formed the policies like the NDC, MPP to also come up with some kind of socialist-oriented or, if you like, social-oriented policies, including LEAP. The NPP were the ones who came up with the LEAP. So both the NPP and the NDC have embraced opposite ideologies that have brought them together. And so these two parties fundamentally are not different. It is part of the problem. That's why when they go for elections, they don't really preach to us because there's nothing much different to preach. They play on our ethnic divisions. They play on the divisions that will annoy each other, us against each other, and then we vote on the basis of those. But speaking to the issue of the youth wings of these parties, these youth wings, I mean, if you want me to call a spade, they are employment agencies, and that's what they are. If you are smart enough and you are in school and you are looking for, come on, I won't mention names, but there are many of them who were the youth leader, youth that. When I was teaching, and many of them were students. And as soon as they finish, they're ministers. They're good, many of them. Ministers, they start with something, and before you know it, they're ministers. It's an employment agency of the party. Now, the party is smart, and that's what I said. I didn't want to mention this, but since you forced me, the party is smart to use that strategy in getting the rest of you here. So we get a few people you admire, we get a few people you aspire to be like, a few people who identify like you are, and they go out there and make you disciples of the party. And that's why I'm saying the issue, it's not wrong to vote. Voting is a civic responsibility. What is wrong is the division that goes to the root of our society that transcends the problems that we face as a country. And that's why I said the question of poverty, the question of health, the question of hunger, the question of maternal death, the fundamental issues that confront our society, which shouldn't be problems of today. People are thinking of how to colonize Mars, and we're still here dealing with it. These are fundamental. And so, unfortunately, we have allowed these to happen because we have forgotten the distinction between what a country should be and what our division on the basis of broad policy is. Broad policy could be, how do we solve the problem of hunger? That's how we can be divided. But we have been divided to the very root of things that ordinarily shouldn't divide us. And that's why I encourage you as youth, moving forward, we must remember that fundamentally the problems that confront us do not know divisions. And I join my brothers, even though some disagree, on the question of preparedness, that even if you are not prepared, that was yesterday. Today is a different day. You can be prepared today and be prepared, because unfortunately the day of preparation will never come. The day is today. The world is not waiting for you to be prepared. You have to be prepared today. And the lady who spoke and she left earlier, speaking about the fact that she was in Saito, I noticed she went to Martin de Porres. I was in Saito throughout. You don't have to be worried where you are. You are who you think you are. But what separates successful people from failures is that whereas all of them start as dreamers, one continues to dream. The other wakes up and works. So you decide where you belong.
That's deep. All right. Excellent views from our panelists. We're very grateful. Mr. Duji, let me come back to you again. You seem to be very keen on the youth policy thing. Now, as we wait for the policy to be implemented, what can we do as young people to make ourselves relevant to government and to the society as a whole?
Well, I think one is what you've stressed, activism. We need more young people to raise their voices against the ills in our society, to push for more youth inclusive policies, to move forward with action. And I mean, it's clear that the panel, it's united on the need for young people themselves to take some leadership. Over the last year, we've been running a project, piloting a project to see to what extent can young people be agents of social change in their immediate communities. So in Tamale and in Cape Coast, in these two universities, working with the university students. And one of the things coming out is that a lot of young people are able to go into communities because this is where they grew up from, and in their immediate environments are able to work with local people, identify problems, and solve them. That fits in the narrative that Doctor and also Prof have been talking about. So I think young people have proved to be interpret innovators as well. There is no sector of our economy today in Ghana where you go that you won't find young people in important positions. They might not be in numbers that you want. They might not be in positions that you want, but they are in certain management roles, either founders, either key players. So we can talk media, we can talk private sector, we can talk to some extent government. There are questions about the extent to which these young people have performed in government, but that's for another day. But the question is, what can young people do whilst we wait for policy? Is to advocate, and go out there and be activists who can lead change in the immediate environments that you find yourself in.
Okay. Now, let me come to you, Ms. Theodora. You have been dealing with youth development for a number of years now. Is there a particular skill or a skill set that young people who want to be activists and people who want to advocate for change and all that need to have in order to be relevant with regards to influencing policy making in the nation?
I think the best skill is passion. And the best skill is I just want to, I'm using myself to answer this question, and my passion and my drive to see a better Ghana, a developed Ghana, a Ghana where there are opportunity for every individual, where every individual wakes up in the morning and they are able to do or follow their dreams, you know. A Ghana where, like the SDG says, zero tolerance for hunger or something like that. I mean, we need to have that dream and that passion to be able to follow or become a development activist. Without it, you're just working. And it's very, very important to have that passion. And there are a few skill sets which is not really what you need, like strategic planning, developing a proposal, and lobbying, and those things are important. But when you have the passion, I know when you have the passion, those things come, you know, somehow for you. So I think for me, the passion is the most important.
Okay, and I'm pushing that because, you know, most times young people will have to take to the streets and engage in a demonstration of a sort in order to get the people that need to sit up to sit up. Exactly. Is it the way to go, 21st century?
Well, when it matters most, and you've done everything, you've done the negotiations, you've done the lobbying, you've been to parliament to meet the minister or the parliamentarian, who matters and things are not pushing. Politicians, we know, are afraid of the numbers. They are afraid, and that's where our dividend as young people come in. That's where the strength of the young people come in. In fact, I'm able to get things done because I can introduce myself as a coordinator of a youth coalition. That alone opened doors for me because they are afraid that, hey, this lady has some hundreds and 200s of young people behind her. And by that alone, I'm able to get anything I want. Hit the street now and they'll hear you. Get the media attention, have a headline, and they'll hear you. So that is actually, the last thing to do. But mostly we do the negotiations, we write the letters, we do the petitions and all that. And if it doesn't work, then you hit the street.
So that's the final resort.
Mostly, that's the final resort.
Okay, all right. So let me come to you, sir, Mr. Bodi. Mr. Bodi, we've realized that through the social media, a lot of change has happened in the world globally. The hashtags and then all that. What do we need to do in this part of our world to utilize technology, social media, to be able to be advocates and activists towards development of this nation as young people?
We have to conceive of new ones. Some of the challenges that Africa faces are pretty unique to our circumstance, our level of infrastructure, our history, our people, etc. So, as opposed to simply being consumers of technological products and things that are being developed and produced by the West and other places of the world, we have to be pioneers of new technologies. And there are a few interesting examples to take inspiration from. A certain young man from Ghana, and before I even say that, I think that we ought to listen a lot more to people like the chairman for the Mcdonald group of companies. These are creators. These are people who have been able to put together industries, put together businesses. It's the hardest thing to do. Compared to that, going to school is pretty easy. But putting an idea together, making it materialize, giving physical effect to your mental architectural dreams, that is almost impossible. We need to be listening to voices like that. We need to have their views incorporated into the kind of curricula that we teach in our schools. Some months ago, I recommended on a show that I was on that there's no reason why tertiary students should not develop commercial angles to their thesis. It does not matter what you're writing on. It could be literature, it could be economics. There should be a business model, a business plan for it. So after you make your case, the professor should be able to ask you that, if I give you $100,000 or $10,000, how will you turn this idea into a money-making entity? We need to inculcate that right at the level of, right into the education process. But on the issue of technology, we just have to build it. I work with an organization called M-Pedigree. M-Pedigree in 2007 announced to the world that we, some men from Africa, have a solution to a problem that the world didn't know what to do with: medicinal counterfeiting. Pundits had predicted that the fake medicine business was actually going to overtake the legitimate pharmacy business. It is currently worth around $700 billion United States dollars, estimated to reach $1 trillion in a few years. What we did was to use the unique circumstance of the African. We had limited infrastructure, limited access to technology, literacy rates were low, but mobile phone access was high. So we were able to combine that, combine supply chain dynamics, propose to serialize all medicines, and enable what we call end-user authentication, which simply means that we make it possible for the patient to confirm that the medicine is genuine. The West was not thinking like that. The technologies that had been proposed back then were things like RFID, which were, from a cost perspective, not compatible with the public health expenses in Africa. So we have to create those technologies. We have to look at our circumstance. And once we do that, you will see that we'll begin to imagine things in a completely different way. And we'll come up with solutions, we'll come up with technologies, we'll come up with certain versions and variants of social media, of AI, of machine learning, that will not be the same as what the West is seeing, but it will be unique. And that is what will get us to the forefront of global discussions. And that is what will get the world to take it seriously.
And would you put some timelines to it? Are you talking about the next 10 years, 5 years, or something we can do in the next few months?
I try to be optimistic, you know, but I'm hoping that the young
diplomats of Ghana,
that this organization, that you have platforms where you don't just talk and tell government what to do, but you discuss and analyze and have the solutions yourselves. So if you go to the Ministry of Health, you are not asking him for where is the policy on infectious diseases, where is the policy on, you know, getting rid of malaria, but you are telling him that this is how we can get rid of malaria in 7 years. Get up and do it. I don't get a bit of that, you know. I don't get enough of that. When I compare, by contrast, the kind of energies that we've seen in the Silicon Valleys, these are young people who are taking down governments. I mean, look at the man at the center of global discussions around privacy, the billionaire Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, you know, he did it. He conceived it and he did it. These are young people who are building stuff, imagining the future, catapulting all of us into the future, and governments are confused. They don't know what to do with them. You take the vision of the man called Elon Musk. Absolutely fascinating. Things left for gods. The guy wants to send human beings to Mars, to pop. He wants us to live in the galaxy, not on the planet. He wants human species to be scattered. When it's nighttime and you see the stars, he wants us to be living there. So you are born on Mars. You probably go to university on the nearest star.
Venus.
You come to vacation on Earth. And that kind of stuff, that is the future. That is where people are going. We cannot be here grappling with mediocrity. We really cannot be here still trying to figure out how to solve basics and waiting for government. And let me just correct, I think, an erroneous impression I made. When I said that we should take ownership, I didn't mean we should ignore the political process or ignore government. What I actually meant is that somehow we should take over. And how we do that is by building and creating. If we are building companies and impacting GDP and creating employment avenues, even if you have just 10% of the numbers that are churned out by the investors in the tertiary educations every year, building up companies, creating mentorship platforms for people like the chairman of the Mcdonald group of companies to inspire and teach and transfer knowledge. And you have 10% every year starting new companies, creating startups, building solutions around the problems we face, energy, water, sewage, etc. If we are doing that, over the next 10 to 20 years, the political system will have no option than to go to.
Listen to us, right?
They will have to listen to you.
Great.
They will have to involve you. They will have to call on you.
Great. On that note, we want to listen to you out there. So let's hear your views. If you have any question to any specific member of the panel, please, let's see by show of hands, and then you can get to address them.
My name is Akonobia. I was part of YDG Cohort 1, and I would like to channel my question to Mr. Emmanuel Eduji. Okay, when the youth policy or when there is any legislative instrument being done, who are the main people that seek to do these things? Are the youth involved, or we leave it to the old men and women to decide what kind of policies that the youth to govern the youth or whatever? I want to know if we have youth who are also involved in the legislative process of the country. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll take one more. Any other person?
Hi, my name is Yao Mwakubeim. Mine is not a question, it's a contribution. I realized something after school in 2016 after my national service. So I did some other courses. So I got a job recently in March. And then after I got the job, I realized that the job was flexible. So this is what I did. After I come out of the gate of the workplace, I saw this fashion school there. I stood there for a while and I told myself, okay, so this is what I want to do. I'm passionate about this. The job I got is not what I want, but because of money, I need to do it. So I did it. And later on, I realized I have to go to the woman and talk to her. So my first attempt, I went there, I just saw her and I left, thinking of what to say. So later on, I went there, I told her, this is what I want to do. I'm a graduate, I'm working, but my job is flexible, so I want to do something. And she said, okay. So everyone there was looking at me. And when I got out, they were all saying, Now where we invest in Abedewa. So I looked at them and I said, I want to learn. So all these things, after that, I realized in a shorter time, it's been a month since I started, and I can sew straight dress for a woman. I can do cover for a woman. I realized it's a challenge, something I need to do 4 times in a week. And I realized this is it. Charlie, you need an extra something to do. I am an effective communicator. How many effective communicators do you have in Ghana? You don't have it. So if you want to stick to that, that will bend you down. So like, why don't you find something better doing as compared to what you are doing? Right now, I want to learn how to barber. Someone will say, why are you learning how to barber? I can have my own barbering salon where someone will be running for me. It will generate you money. I can do this fashion, hire people, sew for me, get the client. I get the client, I just give it to them, sew for me. I get my money.
So your point is we should move out of our comfort zones.
Please leave your comfort zone.
Okay.
Get to the street and do something for yourself.
Okay.
Rather depending on these old men we say.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then in the submissions, I got to realize that it was said that the youth fail because we don't really understand maybe what we are up to. Though we have the capabilities, we have the ambitions, but which way or the interest or what you are passionate about, you don't really have that to push you going. And we find out that in Ghana, when you complete school, the first appearance to develop your skills is through the national service. But this is the fact that the policy around it is that they just post you anywhere.
And people keep changing every time.
Yes. I have a friend who did a Bachelor of Theology, and he has been posted to the Ghana Police Service. I know there is a chaplain over there which he can work with, but he gets there and then they said they are taking him to traffic, to regulate traffic and all that. So this is the person's first exposure to develop his skills or to become more passionate about what he has studied. But just look at it. So how will it also motivate the person to, push up in future? So our policymaker, if you can help us with this.
Yeah. And essentially, national service targets young people, so that's also good for you to address. Then we'll take the last one, and then we'll get some responses from our panel. And again, any member of panel can respond to any of the issues. Yes, I think Mauli.
I would like to ask Eugene a question very directly. How does the pedigree of tech affect local policy in Ghana? Because I know the work pedigree does over the years. How do you do it? How do you go about it practically? How do you influence counterfeit medicine and other things around your supply chain or around the business of what you do? How do you do it practically? I want very practical steps, like community-based actions. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So let's give the panel the opportunity to respond.
Inherent in your question, it seems to me it's an acknowledgement that you think that young people should definitely be the ones driving the development of youth policy. You're right, extremely right. Any policy, any youth policy that does not take the views, the aspirations, the perspectives, and the expectations of young people into consideration and actually places those young people in the driving seat of the development of the policy is doomed to failure. And we have an example. The only national youth policy we've ever had in Ghana's history was the one I referred to earlier on, launched since 2010, has failed to see the light of day. And one of the simple reasons it failed, there are several reasons, but one of the simple ones is just because young people could not see through the policy directions that were identified in there because they were not part of the process. Most young people don't even know that we have a national youth policy. So we need to make sure that any policy that sets the framework for integrating young people into our Ghanaian economy must involve young people. But there's a caveat. Young people alone cannot do it. And I think that's my answer to the debate as to whether I'm saying that young people are capable or not. My proposal is an intergenerational partnership with young people at the center, but in partnership with all other relevant stakeholders. Business, private sector, government, civil society, traditional leaders, because the youth space is a multidisciplinary, multifaceted kind of space where if you just say young people alone, you might not succeed. You need the experience and the foresight of the adult generation to blend with the exuberance and the numbers. And I think we talked about numbers in the very first thing Prof said was the numbers of young people being a justification for them to be at the forefront. But there must be a balance, and that balance too must be multifaceted. So I think this is a very good point that we cannot deny. I'm sorry, but I did not get your point very well, so maybe I'll leave that question also to the
any member of the panel. Yeah, so the national service policy thing, is there something that can be done to make it more youth friendly and help integrate young people into the work culture?
Well, first, there can be some diagnostics, but we need to also understand the policy rationale of the national service in the first place.
Okay.
As you all know, I think somewhere 1976, where the national policy scheme and the national service scheme was introduced. The essence of the national service scheme was to create a generation of young people who will serve their country, as the name suggests, national service. Therefore, you being sent to the hinterland is meant to be service. You are supposed to use someone's expression, get out of your comfort zone to discover how life on the other side is. Go there, serve. But as we all know, the national service is beginning to suffer from the canker of Ghana. And the canker of Ghana is we buy our way through everything.
Whom you know.
So people are posted and they do not want to go. But again, there's been a strategic problem with the national service. Because it has become a conduit to employment, people want to serve in places they are likely to work. That is a strategic thing. And that one, you can hardly fault anyone because it's a simple economic and rational thing to do. If you want to work in Standard Chartered, go and try and do a national service.
Start from there.
You're done, and then you are employed, and you continue there. But we need to understand that there's an essence to that. The essence, among others, was to ensure discipline. You go out there, you serve. That's why in many countries, they have a military aspect to it. They militarize it just to create and inculcate a sense of discipline in you. You're done, you get a sense of how to be disciplined. Let's take the example of today. I said we should become influencers. We must become the agenda setters. We must not become followers. The youth of today suffer from that. They look at what the adult generation is doing and they do that. The youth should correct the adults, and that can happen. Today, we saw many of us coming into the program late. That is a reflection of the Ghanaian problem. The Ghanaian problem, which makes 3:30. In fact, here 3:34. You know that one? We don't really have a time. We have a linear time, and we're all doing that. Look, I guarantee you, if we are 60%, and I'm saying we because today I'm fortunate to say I'm youth. You know, even though youth is supposed to end at 25, but it's fine. We're all youth today. But if we are a good example, a model of what Ghana should look like, the adults will be forced to follow. Even if they do not follow, they'll become the minority. The thing about bad behavior is that when the majority are indulging in the bad behavior becomes the norm, and the good behavior becomes the deviancy. So unfortunately, a lot of people who are doing the good things in Ghana today are rather the deviants because they are the exception from the majority. Let the majority do the right thing. And if the youth are the majority, and if we're already speaking, young people with the activism and energy, I guarantee you, we can influence something. And I'm glad all my friends are speaking about the fact that, look, let's get ready, let's be prepared. And Degree, I think they have to pay advertisement fees.
Very, very important.
It's advertised their job, which is brilliant. So now we know what they do.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've done some fantastic work in pharmaceuticals. But the point is, it can be done. Let's not only think that we have a bunch of people who are of an older generation and they are the only ones who can do things. If the young people start doing the right thing, the older people will look on and they would also equally copy.
Great. Dr. Macaulay, let me take your thoughts with regards to the out-of-the-box thinking the young man spoke about. He's a graduate, but he's venturing into fashion, barbering, and stuff like that. How or what do we have to do as young people to go away from the conventions that once you went to school, you should wear a tie and sit in an air-conditioned office? How do we ginger ourselves to be able to enter into the market space of entrepreneurship?
Well, I mean, that is brilliant. You know, that is his desire. And many a times, what take you far, right, is your desire and your determination and what drives you. He has a drive for what he's doing. I mean, this is not a Dex guy. He's not a guy who wants to glue to a Dex and pay take his paycheck. You know, many a times also, necessity defines you. You understand? It could happen that he's yearning for more sources, and he's not very satisfied. So many a times when you are being meddled with a lot of necessity, you don't have to complain too much. You know, as my friend said, a police officer, he wants to be in the communication center. He's been sent as a traffic warden, and he's complaining. You never know. You understand? You might not. That might not be your field. Challenge yourself, as Prof said. You need to challenge yourself. You need to do things outside the box. To be an entrepreneur, I mean, it's what makes you tick. I mean, let me whet your appetite a bit. Money is sweet. You understand? I mean, who would want to be poor? Money is very nice, and if you have money, just that you have to learn how to humble yourself. If not, the money will destroy you. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, I will encourage you to think outside the box and make some money for yourself. I think that will be the best thing that have ever happened to any human being in this part of the world. I mean, there are so many opportunities. I mean, you turn yourself left and right, you can see opportunities all over the place. He got out of his workplace, he saw an opportunity, and he is taking it. He hasn't taken it yet, he's taking it. He could be the best designer. He could have, I mean, try your hands and also believe in the multiple streams of income. That really helps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam, yes, you want to make a comment?
I just wanted to tell him that there's nothing wrong with studying something and being posted to another institution or something that is not really related. Education is supposed to help us be analytical and solve humanitarian problems. And so once you've acquired the skill to analyze or be analytical and solve problems, then anywhere they put you, at least you should be able to, address situations around there. And like Doc said, you never know. You never know what opportunities might come up or what you might even do there with the little knowledge you have that you might become a star. And so every opportunity we are given should be taken. And then with the policy also, there is a process now to review the current national youth policy, which the NY is handling. And so I hope that youth diplomats will get interested. Look at the old policy, for instance, see what the gaps are. Write to the NYA, for instance, make your proposals on what you think a current new policy should look like. Get your voices heard on that. I think that's
okay.
Avenue to, yeah.
Okay, great. Now, because
let me tell you one thing, right? I went into logistics out of necessity. I started my logistics life as a messenger. So I went there to make ends meet, and this is where I found myself today. Just to let you know.
Wow. Very interesting. Okay, so because of our time, okay, we would want to have enough time to interact with them after the session, because this essentially is the last session, so that we can at least get to engage with them one-on-one. I know you have pressing questions. Directors, can I just take another? But you have a question on from Mauli with regards to pedigree and the role you are playing in the community.
Yes. So I would try to be. Usually our work is a bit abstract, but I'll try to be vivid in the hope that it will set in motion, ideas in your head and in other people's heads. But so the counterfeiting issue primarily is a supply chain issue. The problem with the emerging markets and the developing world, predominantly Africa and certain parts of Asia, is that the border controls are quite porous. It's quite easy to get stuff into the supply chains of these countries. That is why every now and then you hear one regulatory body or the other announcing that don't buy this product. Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
You know, the advert on the radio that don't eat this product. And I always ask myself, how can you tell? You know, but so it's essentially a supply chain issue. How our system works is this: we give every single product that will go onto the shelf an identity, and that identity can be used to validate the product and tell where it is coming from at the point of consumption or usage. So in principle, that is how it works. When you have the product and you're about to use it, we literally make it possible for you to ask the regulator or the manufacturer of that product, is this specific pack indeed coming from you? And if I have any problems, can I hold you accountable? And then there's a message that says that yes, you can, or no, you shouldn't. And how it works is simple: through your mobile phone. Whether it's a smart one like the one you use, I'm sure you have a smartphone, or a standard feature one, Nokia 3310, what they call Baire Banchin or whatever it is. You know, irrespective, that it's device agnostic. It can either work on a smartphone, a standard feature phone, simply by sending an SMS to a short code, which is free to the consumer, so there's a higher incentive for you to text. But we just give every product an identity. And what that means in technical parlance is that we serialize every single pack of the product. And then at the point of usage, the consumer can authenticate that this product has indeed been approved, has gone through the right checks, has been produced under the right conditions, has the right configuration of active ingredients, and so I can go ahead and use it.
Okay.
And if it is not, you are told.
Great. All right. So the last set of questions, and then we can end this session.
Please, I'm Farida.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Please, my question is directed to Ms. Theodora. She earlier made a statement of passion and drive to see a better Ghana. So I wanted to ask, since she's a youth development advocate, how does she intend to encourage or inspire the youth, especially school dropouts or unemployed graduates, to have a passion and drive to see a better Ghana?
Okay, so that's directly for you, madam. Yes. The gentleman, yes, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Kojo. Chairman, I would like to ask you, in your earlier remarks, you spoke about how you turn down students who have degrees and also MBAs. And then knowing that means that there is a total disconnect between academia and probably the job market. I'd like to know the measures. You touched on some measures that you are in connection or you're in touch with some of the lecturers and other people, so that at least some of the programs that are run will be a smooth transition from the classroom. You go to the job market, and at least you are well fit and well placed for that. Could you please elaborate more on the steps that you are taking so that at least people will be well prepared from the classroom, then straight to the job market to be easy for them? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, too. Yes, sir. Yes, it's on.
Thank you for the opportunity. Today we are celebrating the International Youth Day. I believe that in other countries where this will be celebrated, they'll be celebrating it looking at the realities that they are facing. Now in Ghana, we have our own realities. My question, especially to Mr. Buchi and Mr. Macaulay, is that how do a youth like myself and the many people here bypass the realities in Ghana in order to make it? I can just remind you of some of the realities. How do I make it? I'm sharp, I'm not slow, I'm great, I'm good. How do I make it if I don't want to be in MPP or NDC? How do I make it but if I want to challenge the government and someone will not deny me an opportunity by tagging me this or that? How do I make it in Ghana? I'm very passionate about this. How can I make it if I have the great ideas but I don't have the money to make it? Why must I chase you after today's program to get your card in order to make it? So the question is that how can you help me practically? How do I bypass the realities in Ghana in order to make it when I'm not slow, when I'm sharp, and when I'm good?
Okay, thank you. Madam, we'll take the last question from you. Yes.
As a youth, how do you have a positive attitude towards life? And I want to buttress it another question with respect to the same question, but with respect to our traditions, with the subject of respect, where you still have a positive attitude towards life without not being disrespectful. Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
You know, we were trained to respect, but you need to fight on. You can be stubborn and be very have a purpose. Apochi says something. We all begin life with a dream. Some are still dreaming, and some are still doing what? And working. You understand? So, I mean, keep fighting on, keep going on, keep keeping your stubbornness towards success. And that will define you. That will set you apart from the others. Right? And always remember this word, positive defiance. Right? And that can clean you up. And my brother, we are living in a difficult world. Right? For me, this is where opportunities are. Let me tell you something I am doing. Normally, I believe in Ghana. I'm one person who believes in Ghana, because if you check, you can see of my corporate social responsibilities, because I feel I have to give back to the society. And after the Mcdonald Entrepreneurship Challenge, I'm setting up an office called the Mcdonald Incubators. If you know you have a very good idea that can sell, you just walk in there, present it to a couple of judges. If they find faith in what you have, and don't come one and run away. Keep coming till you get them to understand whatever you need, you'll be supported with. Finance, whatever. I am making up mine goal. I'm making it my goal to at least build 10 to 20 businesses every year. And I'm setting up the Mcdonald Equity Fund. It's not a profit-making fund, just to help young people. But you assess that fund, you have to pay back. The Mcdonald incubators, you will buy an equity share in your company. Will mentor you, guide you, right? When your company hit like $1 million a year or 2 years, whatever, the shares will be sold back to you. So Mcdonald will be the CEOs of CEOs. So these are some of the things in my small way I am doing. This tells you that there is hope. So don't stop fighting. You asked also a very sensible question. How do you make it? That doors will not be closed, right? Many of you, before you start, you are failed already. You know, before you take a step, you are even speculating what this person will do. And many a times we don't humble ourselves. Because we have degrees, we go with pride. And the guy who asks of the having the 48 people, attitude is everything, right? How do you have, right? A professor said what? Most of you got here late. The program started late. This is a Ghanaian problem. So you go into the workplace, because every time, let me I'm a practical person, because you had a very practical question. I went to Photoshop at Accra Mall to take a passport picture. There was one guy there. He was given a job, and his comment was, "Why every time me?" You understand? Why every time me? We have other 3 people sitting there. Why every time all the job, I'm loaded with all the job? I get to come in late and early and close late. And I call him aside. And I warn him never to say that again. You understand? I warn him never to say that again, because find yourself fortunate that you are being identified to be the best. Wherever you work and you are loaded with work, that means you are the best. Continue giving up your best, and you never know. If nothing at all, it is better than being idle. You understand? So for me, turn your life around with attitude. Whatever you are doing, just stop the negativity, fight on, and just keep that positive picture and image, and where you want to dream to, put that ahead of you. When I was young, right, I started my life as a messenger in a company. I moved on to import clerk, export clerk, tally officer. I went through the ranks, and today I'm sitting here as the owner of a business. Okay. Last year, I won 19 awards. The year had not even gotten anywhere. I have made 6 already. It doesn't mean I am the best in my industry, but I am good at what I do. You know, when I was young, I had a frog, a sculpture of a frog. Anytime I go to work and I have a tax, I put that frog on my table. If I don't complete the tax, the frog will be looking at me. Some of you go to your workplaces, you have tax, you can just close and go home. You don't care who. I put the frog on my desk. If I finish that tax, I'll take the frog and put it into my drawer. That means I have finished my tax. So I never leave any work undone. I'm always first to get to the office, last to close. And every day, whatever tax I'm given to, I finish before half of the day. So these are some of the positive attitude you have to attach to whatever you do. Never say to yourself that I am doing too much. You see, when I meet youth like this, you are youth diplomats. Some of you will end up being career diplomats. Some of you will end up being entrepreneur. Some of you will end up being professors to lecture law. Some of you, I mean, you are policy maker. Right?
Interesting.
You know, we are from diverse backgrounds and we'll end up in different ways. But at the end of the day, keep your eye on one thing, sources.
Great.
And be resource oriented.
Yes. So let me just take the closing remarks so that we can end. Can you incorporate that into your closing remarks?
I thought,
okay, fine, that's fine.
It's just a small, it's an experience I also just want to share. But it has to do with the fact, how many of you here have reviewed your CV in the last 1 week? There are small things. Look, we live in a country and there are problems. Nobody can dispute that. In the meantime, don't live like you're in heaven. You are in Ghana. That means deal with what you have. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to go through somebody to get a job. Unfortunately, but do that. But in the meantime, do what you have to do. And I guarantee you, many of you have CVs that will not pass the test. My good friend, is a very good friend of mine, has said you should be humble. Humility is good, but don't be humble on your CV. There's too much humility on CVs. And humble CVs don't pass the test because often you need to cross the first barrier. That first barrier is your CV will be assessed and then you are called. Many of you will not be called. It's not because you're not good. You are excellent. You're very good. You're talented. But your CV speaks badly of you. And the CV is an indication of who you are. So there will be no call made to you. Look at good models. There are models these days. Fortunately, you Google, you can find anything. Look at good models and let your CV look like an international CV. Pass that fundamental test. And so while you're going around and while you're praying, do what you have to do.
Excellent. All right. So let's take your comment and then we'll come back with the final.
The business section.
I'm telling you. Yes.
Anyway,
Prof sits in the middle, from academia.
My sister was asking about how to inspire unemployed and illiterate youth. And I thought that question was so unfair. So you are saying, what is Ghana giving me and why should I care about Ghana? Is that the question? That's what I heard. That's what I hear from your question. But I think that I see wanting to make a change as a leadership thing. So that a mentor once asked me, do you think the situation in your country, he was from Uganda, can get any better? And I started lamenting. And he was like, no, as a leader, you have to believe. You have to believe that things will get better. You have to believe that things can change. You have to believe that your country can be what you dream it to be. If you don't believe that, you have failed right from the start. And so that whether you are employed or unemployed, literate or illiterate, what do you want to see in Ghana? What do you want to see in your country? Like one of the panelists said already, Ghana belongs to you, the young people, now, today, and the future. Today is yours, tomorrow is for your children. And so it's a chicken and egg situation. It's either you give or you sit. If you sit, you won't get the future. You get it? So you are unemployed today. Because of that, you will not give up your best to your country. And well, tomorrow you will not have it for your children. So give today, whether you are unemployed or not, and then tomorrow your children might get to benefit from it. So it's a chicken and egg situation. Whether you are illiterate or unemployed, we have to give up our best to our country. It's very, very important. And that's why I'm excited to have people like you here. And let me just chip in a bit about innovation thing. You know, I started being innovative when I traveled to Uganda some time ago. And I saw so much difference in the way they do their things from how we do our things. So the first thing I noticed when I got there late in the night was their gates. And so the gates, like our normal gates, we open and close, but theirs have a flap under it. They flip the flap over during the day so to make it easy to move. And then during the night, they close that flap. You know, and I'm like, why haven't we thought about it? Because you know, you drag gates in Ghana and they're dragging on the floors. But during the day, they don't have that problem. I'm like, hey, why haven't we thought about it? I walked on the major street and I saw a guy. I was with another Ghanaian. You know this very heavy thing they roll on the cement or mortar or something. So I saw a guy pushing this thing all the way. And then my fellow Ghanaian said, but why is this guy carrying this thing like this? And I'm like, if it was in Ghana, the person would be carrying it. You know? But here was this guy rolling this thing, walking with it. And I knew if it was in Ghana, it would have been on a very, either the person would be carrying it or in the trolley or something that would be pushing so heavy. And that's what sets me thinking about innovation and the little ways we can make changes in our lives and how we can address, you know, the problems we have as a society. And that's, since then, I always look at everything in another light. How do I make it differently, excellently? How do I do something new, you know? So it's dressmaking you want to do. How do you add something to it to make it different? Or to make it more stylish, if you want, or to make it something out of the blue? How do you just, there is always the need to think through that and add something.
Okay, so let me start from you, Eugene Kokubwedu. So your company does a lot of work in the pharmaceuticals and all that. You are a Ghanaian. Can you tell us clearly how your company or your work is influencing policy in the health sector?
Oh, this is not fair because I had something I wanted to say as my concluding remark. So
okay,
if I want me to answer, I'll answer that and still go ahead too.
In 2 minutes, because you came in late, that's fine. I'll give you that 2 minutes. Fine. So straight to the question, and then you can add your closing thoughts.
So unfortunately, we've had a lot more impact outside Ghana than in Ghana.
And why is that so? It's unfortunate.
So you know, there's a lot going on in Africa, but different governments are taking different opportunities of the available technologies. Nigeria, for instance, has downgraded the incidence of counterfeits from 60% to the last survey that they conducted to 3%. So it depends. Governments are different across the length and breadth of Ghana. And over the next 50 to 100 years, you are going to see that although, you know, it's still going to be the African continent, certain countries are going to be a lot more prosperous than others. There's a reason why they are currently home to virtually all the billionaires, or most of the billionaires that we have in the sub-region. So we haven't had a lot of impact in Ghana, except one that perhaps all of you can attest to. There was a company called GTP. The owners of the company is actually called Premium African Textiles. They are the same company that owns the Vlisco brand. And a few years ago, they were having a huge crisis because of the influx of fake versions from China and other places in Asia. And GTP was, you know, laying workers off and they were about to fold off. Then we tried to convince them that you can use the technology to let people pick the original GTP from the fake ones. Well, there was a lot of drudgery and they weren't sure, but we decided to run a pilot. There is also a positive, and then we went to a full commercial deployment. Now, GTP has recouped some 40% of its profits back. So that's a clear way in which our technology has impacted Ghana. Hopefully, when the government accepts a lot more innovation, we hope to do what we've done in Nigeria, in Uganda, in Kenya, in Mumbai, in Egypt, also in Ghana. And it will be possible for all of us to buy medicines, whether it's gripe water for our children or it is, I don't know why Personal 2 is coming to mind. but it's very popular in Nigeria. You know, people buy more Personal than they buy antimalarials. So we'll be able to. we will be able to buy goods and medicines with the conviction that we are taking the right thing.
Those of us who don't know will Google what Posino2 is, we'll find out.
Absolutely. So quickly, very, very quickly, my own concluding remark. It's a charge to you, the young diplomats, Ghana.
Yes.
So struggles of the world are struggles of elites. It has always been the limited 5, 10, 15, maximum 20% of thinkers and doers and intellectuals who have dedicated themselves to the struggles of liberating the rest of the people. I get the impression there's an elitist gathering. The price to pay for being in this privileged organization is the output, is the amount of impact that you have on the 80% of our people who are locked up in the rural areas and in the hinterlands. And it is your responsibility. There's no one else sitting down planning how to transform Ghana. If you think it's happening, I think you should think again. Nobody's sitting anywhere, strategizing, hey, so how are we going to become a first world? How are we going to become a global superpower? It's not happening.
Our governments are not doing that? Anyway, go ahead.
So it is your responsibility, and I would want to see a lot more participation from groups like yours. And to do that, there are just two things that I think you need to accomplish. The first one is identity. I'm not too happy that we are here, and who says that diplomats must only wear suits? That was a creation of a certain order. If we as Africans want to step out onto the global stage and redefine what it means to be a global leader, we should be African. Yeah, I'm also guilty. I'm also wearing a jacket. But that's because we've created a certain system in which to look corporate or to look formal, you must wear a jacket. But suits are not our thing. They are not even compatible with our weather. So I think that the identity issue is important. We have to repair the broken sense of national psyche. And it starts with what we're wearing. And I want to see you young diplomats wearing a lot more African prints and African stuff, not just from Ghana, but from the rest of Africa. So take responsibility, fix the identity issue amongst yourself, and do the second thing. Form thought platforms, groups amongst you, think critically about the issues, and have solutions under your sleeve. So there were questions about the national youth, the youth policy or the draft. But do they have a draft of their own? If Parliament asks you, okay, what do you have? Bring it, we'll pass it tomorrow. You don't have one. So again, the ownership thing there must come into place. Draw up your own youth policy. And when you get the opportunity to meet the authorities and they are fumbling, you put yours in front of them. Because we ourselves are not prepared. We do not have any solutions. Just one quick example to illustrate this. If you drive frequently in Accra, you see that there are young men who sell yams. They sell yams. And the way they sell it is to hold it. So one guy will have like 8 tubers, right?
Like a pyramid in front of his.
Right? That is completely thoughtless. It is representative of the lack of intellectualism in this society. Only if you want to sell in traffic, we've accepted that we will do that, although it's bad. Fine. But why have a human being in this day and age carrying, no, it's not funny, carrying about 8 tubers of yam? It is because our engineers from Tech and Legon have not designed a simple device that can have the yams where that young man can buy, one stand and put it on and just be moving it easily through the traffic. So we are not thinking. Engineering students from Tech and Legon designing a simple device like that, approaching the Honorable Mcdonald Institution for funding, that itself is a business. You are solving a thoughtless problem of a guy carrying yams, looking very, very silly. You are generating funds, and you are making money for yourselves. So innovation. Every problem you see is a business idea waiting. I just finished reading a report of some young guys in Asia who want to compress a lot of energy into a dry cell. So in the future, you don't really need to connect to ECG. You just buy a pot, and then you buy one dry cell, and then you slot it in there, and it will power your whole house. But why are we not thinking that? We just launched a new Terminal 2 at Kotoka, right? And videos and pictures are watched on social media, right? The place is nice. I'm yet to use it, but it looks nice, right? But we are catching up. That is what Senegal has done. That's what, South Africa's airport is 1 billion times better than that. Why are we happy about catching up when we are so left behind? Why are we not thinking what the next phase of aeronautic industry is going to look like? Why are we not cutting through like that? We did something smart by bypassing landlines. We jumped from no phones at all to mobile phones. Africa completely bypassed the landline revolution, which was great. We have to do those hacks with all other sectors as well. So think, the responsibility is on you. Form critical groups, have blueprints, energy, water, electricity, have all those blueprints, and let's keep pushing. Yes, the young man was right in saying that, how do you do anything when you don't even know where to start? Even when you send business proposals to governments, they are not listening. But that itself is also a problem. Someone can build an app that says that for every minister or every state actor that promotes a local intervention or local innovation, we are going to rate him on that app. And on that app, we are going to circulate that app during elections time. And people are going to see the politicians that are creative. That itself is a business. So you don't need innovation. You don't need someone to help you to innovate. That is, by definition, a bit tautological. Because innovation itself is supposed to kill the barriers. So every encounter, every problem you see itself, you must innovate around it. Thank you.
Well done. So that's Mr. Eugene Boy, the head of corporate affairs and Pedigree Network. Let's go to Doc. Doc, we will all agree, if not everybody, majority will agree that you are a very successful businessman. Now, my question to you is, now that you've attained this level, are the governments listening to people like you?
Many years I have never really looked into government. You know why? You'll have to look at the environment you find yourself in. Yesterday I was on a radio program and I told them now I'll do government business. And the host asked me why. And I asked him to point me to any billionaire in the world who doesn't do business with government. That's the reality. From Bill Gates, Carlos Kim, just mention any billionaire, Dangote, whoever. Are they not doing business with government? Well, if you ask if government is looking at me at all, for me, Ghana is growing very fast. And we are getting there. One of the panelists said something here. When we, the private sector, act, government will listen. We have a big voice. If I have employed over 6,000 people, I think I'm supposed to be a superstar in Ghana for government. But government doesn't look at me. Should we sit back and watch idiot pass policies for us? As the professor said, it's about time we have to make our voice known. It's about time we have to also take part in some of the debates. So for me, we have a listening government. Governments are coming who are now listening to the private sector. They come and they confuse us that, oh, we listen to you. But when they are passing the Local Content Act, they don't involve you. You understand? So it's difficult. But let me give you an advice here. Don't live here and step out of this room and expect government to do anything for you. Go on your own, fight for yourself, but keep at the back of your mind that this country is for you. Take ownership of this country. And where you get the opportunity to debate it. Don't leave it standing, as our dear sister said. So for me, it's about time government had to listen to some of us. Government had to play a role in our indigenization. If we want to go industrialize, government had to listen to the private sector. Government in itself cannot do good business. Forget it. So, Mr. Moderator.
John Appiah, that's my name, sir.
Mr.
John Appiah.
Mr. John Appiah.
Yes, sir.
Government is really not listening to me now. But I hope very soon.
Right.
They will. Very soon.
It's in their best
somebody
interest.
says something. Very soon, they won't have any choice. We will sit and they will call us. You mark it somewhere.
Excellent. That's a prophecy. Please put your hands together for Dr. Daniel Macaulay, who is the board chairman of the Mcdonald Group of Companies. Prof, you sit in the middle. Okay, so when I read through your CV, very exciting. It's just today that I realized you went to Saito, but you didn't stay in Saito. You rose through the ranks, went to all that, Harvard and all that. And you're also a business entrepreneur as well, because you have your FM, that exactly. I want you to speak to the relevance of education in helping young people to make an impact. Because for a fact, anytime you speak, everybody listens, because you speak the things that really make sense, even for lay people who have never done law before. So you are an influencer in the system. How do we as young people utilize the power of education to get to the levels where when we speak, whether on radio or TV, at least we'll get people listening to us?
I think we should come to the conclusion. That the days of education, when education trained you to fit into a straitjacket, are gone. The days when you go to school to be trained to become something you're trained for, they're gone. Someone spoke of MBA. MBA used to be a graduational degree. It used to be a degree that led to promotions. Today, MBA is an entry point degree. Even that, you still don't get the entries in some places. So education is simply designed and should be designed to train your mind to be analytical, to be creative, and to be adaptive. Unfortunately, even that education is failing in Ghana today. But you can't sit and cry. You have to do something about this. We live in the day of disruption. Today's world is a disruptive world. In other words, no business is guaranteed tomorrow. Many of the businesses that are listed in Fortune 500 did not exist even at the year 2000. And the biggest, the trillion-dollar company in the world today, as we all know, Apple. Apple, of course, started in the mid-'80s, but Apple became Apple after the year 2000, essentially. So we live in the days of disruption, and so remember that every day is a day that cannot be counted upon, but tomorrow only belongs to those who are prepared for it today. So you become prepared for it today. And the only way you become prepared for it today is to belong to the trend. So the point I'm making to you, and someone mentioned it earlier, you may be bloggers, you may have Instagram, you're on Twitter, you're on all kinds of things. When was the last time you were engaged in critical policy discussion? When was the last time you were part of the trending conversation on business? Unfortunately, a lot of the youth, and this is the part we have to admit the reality, a lot of the youth today are mini in their thoughts. You think small. You think of petty stuff. You're not critical. You're not big picture. Please, dissociate yourself from people who are not part of tomorrow. If you analyze yourself and you check your friends, anybody who's not part of your tomorrow shouldn't be your friend. And unfortunately, your associations sometimes keep you backwards. So moving forward, the suggestion about what education should do for you is that education should prepare you to be able to fit and adapt. Even though Zuckerberg, when he was a student of Harvard, was supposed to be studying something similar in that area, he did not fit himself in the straitjacket of what his professors were teaching. He identified something, the fact that the people of the world were becoming metropolitan. The people of the world were living in big cities. Gone were the days when everyone knew everyone in the village. Today we are in big cities and people are becoming more and more lonely. He decided to invent something that will lead to connections, something that will bring people who are long lost many years back together, something that will create synergies between people who otherwise were not connected simply because of certain variables or factors or indices. And so because of that, you can pop someone who's not a friend and suddenly you have a community of people. Of course, he's been criticized. Facebook has led to more alienation. Today, people have more friends, but frankly, they have no friends. But that's another story. But ultimately, you need to be able to look into space and invent something, create something which was not there before. Even though the truth exists that not all of us are inventors. Not all of us are creators. Some of us must be employed. That's part of the world too. For those who must be employed, as I said earlier, prepare yourself for the market. Humility on your CV doesn't pay. Backward CVs will lead you nowhere. And your inability to engage and network is also part of your deficiency. Identify networks. This is a fantastic network, the Young Diplomat Network. Through this, you meet someone who belongs somewhere, who is the reason why, by reason of a small reference for you, you get a job. Or by reason of a phone call, you get a job. But more importantly, be able to think of the tomorrow. Because the thing is really not today. Today is it's a fleeting moment. There is always a tomorrow. And that's why they say if tomorrow never comes. Because tomorrow really never comes. Every day is a tomorrow. Every day, today is the tomorrow of yesterday. The tomorrow of tomorrow is coming. The tomorrow of tomorrow is coming. Be ready for tomorrow. And being ready for tomorrow means being constantly ready for the future. Today is only a fleeting moment. Prepare, be ready, be marketable, be aggressive, and remember, nothing comes by easy. I can't speak enough on what they said because there's no time, but a lot of the youth today are looking for quick fixes. there are no quick fixes in the employment place, because in there, the long-term profitability and sustainability is all that matters. Thank you.
So let me come to you, sir. People call you the policy man, but we want you to help us bridge the gap. We admit that there are young people that are doing entrepreneurial things, who are very creative and all that, but when it comes to activism and where the policy fits in, how do we connect the two dots?
Well, 3 things, just so we don't have time.
Okay.
Number 1, we need to collaborate. Okay, the 3 C's: collaborate, convene, and curate. Now, these are all related to the question about what can we do ourselves as young people. When you convene, you take advantage of the numbers of young people. And I think we've said it twice already here, that the sheer numbers of young people in our African countries makes the case for their leadership of development processes. So convening means multiplier effects, massive mobilizations, and bringing ideas from every corner. 2, collaborate. Where your strength ends, mine begins. We have various talents, and I think this is one of the emphasis that Dr. Macaulay wants to, has made most of today, that when you are able to identify where your strength is, your other party, or in this case of massive mobilization, your other colleagues will be able to match your weaknesses. So collaboration means bringing together your strengths and building towards one vision. The third one is what I call the curation. So sometimes we know the ideas and we are not able to push it forward. And that's the point where I think it's important, this is my closing remark, to again highlight the policy angle. You can mobilize by yourself, you can collaborate by yourself, but when you need to curate an idea into fruition, you probably need to expand your stakeholder base. And that's where policy is important. It's interesting that from the beginning, we didn't see too much of the need for policy. But towards the end, do we all realize everybody is talking about how government is necessary after all? And the channel through which you can engage government is policy. You can't do it any other way. And so we need to be able to engage at this point, collaborate, partner, build, and bring resources together or pool resources together in order to achieve that youth activism. With these 3 C's, I believe that the YPG will be able to lead that effort. And someone already advised you, and I want to buttress that. Don't limit your work to Accra in really beautiful suits and tires. I think we can have forums and interactions like this elsewhere across the country. Put the ties here, wear jeans and some polo tops, and let's do a road trip. So we've done our International Youth Day event yesterday in Tamale, and you should see ordinary people taking the microphone. Just look at Youth Empowerment Synergy Facebook page, and you might see some of these ordinary people coming to voice, their concerns, aspirations, and views on how to tap the potential of young people as a contribution to national development. Let's expand the scope. And thank you again for inviting me.
Great. Let's put hands together for Mr. Emmanuel Eduji, who's the Executive Director, Youth Empowerment Synergy. So let's come to Ms. Theodora William Auntie. I'll call you the passion lady here. Now, my question is that a lot of us here are passionate about certain causes. We are very passionate about certain things we believe, if done the right way, will make Ghana a better place. How do we grow our passion to the point where we can indeed exert influence on policymakers?
I think Mr. Eduji has spoken about collaboration, networking, coalition, working for coalitions. But the best for me is developing and building alternatives for the government. No matter how passionate you are, if you don't have an alternative, which we have heard, I think, consistently from the panel, have an alternative. So we have when we had this afternoon, when you came to the youth voices or something like that, those were supposed to be alternatives from this platform to the government or to whoever cares. But unfortunately, it wasn't so strong. But I think we've had it here. And let's put together alternatives. What are ideas of solving the problems that we think, or addressing the challenges in our society? We spoke about education. What are the problems? What is our solution? What are we proposing? What are we putting on the table for governments or for policymakers, whoever it is? And I think that's one of the strongest things. We can build all the networks, have all the coalitions, but if we don't have very good proposals to write us off, they will not take us seriously. And so I think that YDG, yeah, it's YDG. Yes. YDG should build itself as a very strong alternative base with regards to policy proposals to governments and policymakers. And then another way is using the media. I think I've said earlier, we almost cannot get anything done without the media. Once you are in the media, once your voices are on the media, once they hear you on the morning shows, or they hear your name, or why did you say this, or you issue a press release, or once you're in the media, the government will hear and listen. And we are blessed with social media now. I hope somebody is tweeting this. We are blessed with social media, Facebook. Those are the places where we put our policy alternatives. So those are very, very important avenues to make our voices heard. And strategically positioning ourselves to make our voices heard. Also take advantage of issues, topical issues that come up and chip in here every now and then. And for my closing remark, I just wanted to say that, like I said earlier, we have a democracy that works. And we have to take interest, we have to be interested in it, we have to want to make it work, and we have to want to make it grow. And therefore, we should not just be observers, but we should actively participate in it. And we are doing that now. And as I said earlier also, that most of the time when we gather like this, it's so difficult to do coalitions and groups like this, because when the time really comes for the work, you don't find the people. And I'm afraid some of us are here because maybe this would be a very nice place to get a job very easily and very quickly. And there is a lot of work to be done. And I hope that we'll put that aside or inculcate the job that has to be done with what we are also personally interested in. Otherwise, when the push comes to shove, you will find most of us here.
Excellent. Please put your hands together for Theodora William Anti, who is the Programs Manager for Foundation for Security Development in Africa. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our panel discussions. I will quickly invite up front Rhoda Adjoaboatin to give us the closing remarks. So, please put your hands together for our panelists as they take their seats. Well done. We are very grateful to you. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we would all agree that today's gathering has been a fruitful one and a great opportunity, especially for us as young people, to come together, engage in discussions, and learn from people who have been where we are and are either where we want to be or are doing what we want to do, and who have given us some answers to our unending questions, fears, and doubts, as we've really expressed ourselves in the discussions and knowledge-sharing exercises we have had today. Not to mention that they are thought-provoking, self-examining challenge to us as youth. Indeed, I cannot help but agree that it has been a safe space for us, and it's certainly in line with the global theme for this year's International Youth Day, Safe Spaces for Youth. I would want to express our sincere thanks to our special guest of honor, Dr. Daniel Macaulay, for taking time off his schedule to join us for this meeting, and also to Mrs. Magdalena Penting for stepping in for the minister at the last minute and conveying government's goodwill message to us. To our speaker from the World Bank, who gave us the welcome address, Mr. John Richardson. To our guest speakers and resource persons, Mrs. Theodora William Anti, Professor Kofi Abochi, Mr. Eugene Kwekubwedu, and Mr. Emmanuel Eduzi. We are equally grateful for your valuable time and insights, guiding our thoughts and empowering us. Also to Ms. V for joining us, and the young diplomats of Ghana's communications specialist and our host and moderator for today, Mr. John Appiah. We are grateful. Let me now thank the World Bank for providing us with a safe space for this meeting, and to all our participants and friends from the media for making day one a success. We look forward to the pleasure of your company for another insightful and exciting engagement tomorrow, God willing. As we go away, let's ponder the following questions. Why am I here? In this gathering, at your school, in your house, at your workplace? What do I want to do for my country, Ghana? What do I want to be noted for? Am I prepared to lead? Am I prepared to take action? And if not, how do I prepare? Finding answers to these questions is a step in the right direction. One day or day one, you decide. Thank you.